Jin Seowon was only a normal student who loved Murim novels and survival games. After leaving the army, he planned to study hard and fix his life, but one last game pulled him back in. As a top ranker in Loyal Ground, Seowon thought he understood survival better than anyone. But the next morning, a strange light appeared behind him, and before he could react, he was sucked into another world. And this time, losing might not be just a game. As he gets thrown to an unfamiliar space, he wonders if he is getting punished because his resolve to study was shattered in one day. He finally opens his eyes to a bright environment that is so loud. He manages to sit up, and to his ultimate surprise, he sees a lot of people standing around. There are some who are even fighting themselves with a sword. Looking at how they are all dressed, Seowon believes that they are cosplayers, but at the same time, he can't even understand what they're saying because they are speaking different languages. Seowon gets on his feet, and standing in the distance is a giant statue which freaks him out, and he starts asking himself where the hell he's managed to find himself. Suddenly, a window appears in front of him, revealing that 100 players have been detected, and at the same time, he can hear a voice in his head. Just then, the statue's eyes start to glow really bright while Seowon is informed that the system is being initialized. Moments later, he is informed that the language has been synchronized. Seowon still doesn't understand what is going on until he realizes that he can now understand everyone as if they have all started speaking in Korean. He sees two dudes, Escrow, a mage, arguing with another weird dude with an ugly face, Chiron. It appears that the two are also confused as to how they found themselves in such a strange place. Apparently, Escrow is an archmage, while Chiron works for the Demon King. Tired of seeing Chiron's ugly face, Escrow decides to end him with a powerful lightning magic. Chiron freaks out as he gets hit with lightning, but when everything settles, he is still standing strong. Chiron is shocked at this because there is no way he just took the hit head-on and is still alive. In fact, he doesn't even feel anything, and another round of argument ensues between him and Escrow again. Escrow accuses Chiron, saying he is the one who dragged them from their world to such a weird place, but even Chiron is as clueless as he is. Seeing everything that is unfolding right in front of him, Seowon realizes that it is not a dream whatsoever. Just then, they are notified that the game is about to start, and the difficulty level has been set to easy. They are expected to get into the top 90, and the map that has been chosen is the King Kingdom's capital. However, those who get into the top 10 or higher will receive better rewards. The tutorial is skipped, and they are informed that in the waiting room, attacks between players don't hit. Just then, a map appears before them, and Seowon realizes that this is a game map. The system reveals that the game is called Cloyd Survival, and a brief explanation will be given to those who are just joining for the very first time. Apparently, the game will progress for 100 days, and each day, the map will get slightly restricted. They are told to be careful not to enter the restricted zone because they might be subjected to great harm. The system lets them know that the game is going to continue until there is only one survivor left. In addition, if the game finishes or they are eliminated, they will return to their original world. However, players who do not make it into the top 90 will not be able to participate in the game again. The system then tells them that they will soon descend into the map area where they can obtain items that will help them enter the top 90. Upon hearing all of these, Seowon doesn't want to believe his ears, and he starts thinking that he is probably dreaming about Loyal Ground. It then dawns on him that he might not even have a chance against the weird humans that surround him. Nonetheless, he is not prepared to die even if it is just a dream. Seowon is thinking about what to do when he suddenly gets insulted by another player who calls him messy hair. The dude looks really big, and he has a giant sword. He screams at Seowon, telling him that he's been looking around weirdly. He asks him where he is from, but Seowon stays mute, which aggravates the dude. He yells at Seowon again, asking him where he's from. The moment Seowon realizes that the game is starting in 3 seconds, he starts smiling, leaving the dude even more pissed. Just as he is about to be teleported away, Seowon flips off the dude because he is pretty sure that with his knowledge of Loyal Ground, he is going to survive and defeat riffraff like the dude. Before the dude can get to say anything or do anything, the game starts, and they all find themselves free falling from the sky. Seowon notices that the other players are descending in areas where there are many items, but knowing how dangerous those kinds of areas are, Seowon decides to start on the outskirts just to be safe. He locates a lonely house in the distance, and he screams the word descend to land right in front of the house. The moment he hits the ground, he is hit with motion sickness, but while he is still trying to battle with this, he hears a rustling sound around him, causing him to panic. With his blurry vision, he starts running towards the house, and he realizes that he wasn't able to see whoever might have landed with him, thanks to the motion sickness. Seowon dashes into the house, knowing fully well that he is done for if he comes across an enemy, and he still doesn't have a weapon on him. Seowon makes it into one of the rooms in the house, and he sits down to catch his breath. He starts wondering if the dude he provoked as the game started followed him. At this point, Seowon is already regretting his decision to have provoked the dude. He looks through the window, and when he doesn't see anyone around, he concludes that he must have heard the sound of the wind. After realizing that everything has calmed down, he decides to look through the house to find items. The first thing he finds is a heavy crossbow, and the moment he picks it up, he realizes just how heavy it is. However, he has no choice because it is better than nothing. He also realizes that the moment he equipped the weapon, the know-how flowed into his head. He loads the crossbow and he raises it to aim it. He gets the perfect aim, and he boastfully talks about how he was a sergeant in the South Korean army, so this is nothing to him. Seo-woon fires the crossbow and it releases the bolt, but this leaves a powerful shockwave that throws Seo-woon back. Seo-woon lands on his arse, and when everything settles down, he realizes that the bolt has torn through the wall. It immediately dawns on him that he can get far if he learns how to properly use the crossbow. After getting back on his feet, he looks around a bit but doesn't find anything else that is useful inside the house. Nonetheless, he is not discouraged because he knows how big the map is, and he can easily get more loot later. Seo-woon proceeds into another house where he finds a scroll. He checks it out and realizes that it is a small healing scroll. If one rips the scroll, their injuries will be healed. Seo-woon is surprised by this, and he decides to take more recovery items. Seo-woon wishes that he could get his hands on an item bag to help him store things. Just then, he notices a book in the distance, and he quickly grabs it. It turns out that it is a martial arts book that revolves around the Black Star Chi palms. This is a type of martial arts that lets one project hidden weapons through their fingers. The system asks him if he would like to learn the technique, and Seo-woon agrees to learn it, hoping that there is going to be a tutorial or something. Suddenly, he is hit with a bright light, and the book is absorbed into his body. He decides to try it out, and he grabs a fork, which he throws at the wall. To his delight, the fork travels at a great speed before hitting the wall, leaving a huge dent in it. Seo-woon smiles because he has just learned a martial art. Since there are martial books lying around, Seo-woon figures out that there must also be magic books too. Nonetheless, at this point, he wants to believe that Cloyd Survival and Loyal Ground are the same game. After looking everywhere without getting any more loot, he decides to move somewhere else. Before he knew it, night came, and Seo-woon realized that he had to find a place to hide. Moments later, he finds a house, but he is skeptical about the house since the lights are on. This means two things. It's either that there is a rare item that is hidden inside the house, or somebody is camping there. Nonetheless, he decides to enter the house while making sure he stays on his guard. He realizes that he doesn't even know how many people landed close to him, but it is always one of two things. It's either that they are a complete noob or a complete pro. After looking through the first floor, he realizes that there is nothing whatsoever, and he wonders if whoever is inside is hiding on the second floor. He starts thinking of his options, which are the martial art he just learned, or making use of the crossbow in his hands. Seo-woon slowly moves to the second floor with his crossbow perfectly aimed at the front to take down whatever enemy he comes across. When he reaches the upper floor, he is surprised that there is nothing serious, only a lantern that is sitting on the table. There is also a room, and he wonders if it is a trap. He proceeds to break down the door while expecting an ambush, but to his surprise, there is nothing of sorts. Seo-woon crashes to his knees in relief because there is no one in the room and realizes that he's been scared for nothing. He starts looking around, and he soon finds a ring, which is called the Ring of Strength. This is a ring that increases the user's strength by 20 points when equipped. Since it is a means of getting stronger, Seo-woon proceeds to wear the ring. The moment he does, he immediately feels the difference in how his body feels much lighter. In fact, the weight of the crossbow that was on his back looked like it was nothing. He wants to confirm how much the 20 points contribute, and he pulls up his info. Seo-woon looks really disappointed at his own stats because if not for the ring he just found, his strength stat along with his other stats would be trash. He then notices that in the class section he is classified as a martial artist. Seo-woon smiles because he's been blessed with something compared to when he just landed. He then decides to look through the floor more, and not long after this, he finds a subspace ring, which allows the user to store items in a subspace when equipped. Seo-woon wonders why he keeps getting rings, and after reading the info on the subspace ring, he realizes that it works just like an inventory. He tries it out by saying subspace, and a small portal appears in front of him. He dumps one of the healing scrolls in there, and realizes that it is much better than having to carry a bag around. Seo-woon admits that it would have been so good if something like this existed in real life. In fact, everything that he's found so far would be mind-blowing if he could take them back to reality. He remembers that he is supposed to check the player count because some would have died already. He checks out the info window and he finds it in a corner. To his surprise, only one person has been eliminated since the game started. Seo-woon continues looting, and fortunately for him, he finds many hidden weapons that he can use alongside the Black Star Chi palms. Since he's done clearing out the house, he thinks of moving ahead, but a thought of sleeping there overnight occurs to him. Since he doesn't even have the strength or ability to take down the strong guys he saw in the lobby if he encountered them at night, he figures out that hiding would suit him best. By hiding and getting into the top 90, he knows that he will be able to obtain more loot. Since the night will be crawling with fewer people, Seo-woon decides to search one more house before the sun comes up. Moments later, Seo-woon realizes that he is not even getting tired, even though he's been moving for a while, and this is all thanks to the ring of strength that he obtained. However, this doesn't mean he's not feeling hungry or even thirsty. At this point, he wants to believe that the game is similar to reality. He continues moving, hoping to get to the city where he can see food. Suddenly, he hears a scary growl behind him, and he quickly dashes for cover. He slowly looks around, and he almost shits his pants when he realizes that he is in werewolf territory. Before he even gets the chance to catch his breath, another werewolf appears beside him and almost tears his head off with its claws, but Seo-woon dodges the attack at the last second. Sweat runs down his face in fear because all he believed was that he was in a player versus player game where there are no monsters. Seo-woon starts regretting why he didn't just stay in the house instead of running around to loot. Seo-woon makes a run for it and soon spots a house in the distance. Using all of his strength, he dashes into the house to hide. However, the werewolves are still onto him, and Seo-woon starts wondering what he is supposed to do in a moment like this. Seo-woon looks through a hole in the door and realizes that the werewolf is sniffing around to catch his scent. Since the monster doesn't know where he is, he figures out that it would be best if he takes down the monster first. Seo-woon takes aim, and he fires a bolt at the wolf. The bolt travels at an insane speed, and it hits the werewolf so hard that it crashes to the ground in pain. With one of them out, Seo-woon figures out that he has to find a way to deal with the second one. All his calm plans immediately go to shit when the last wolf comes straight at the house, attacking him. Seo-woon manages to dodge the attack, and he leaps backward to dodge while aiming the crossbow at the werewolf. He fires the crossbow, but the wolf blocks the bolt with its arm before lunging at Seo-woon. Seo-woon's life flashes before his eyes, but refusing to give up, he reaches into the subspace to get himself a hidden weapon. With the wolf close to him, he unleashes the hidden weapon using the Black Star Chi palms. The dagger flies through the wolf's body, rupturing its insides, creating a big hole in it, thus killing it, while Seo-woon confidently boasts about how he is never going to die to a mere underling. Even though he was boasting about being a top dog, Seo-woon was scared that he had almost died at the hands of a werewolf. He is glad that he had stashed the throwing dagger from before because it would have been so embarrassing to die at the hands of the werewolf. Just then, he realizes that the dead werewolf dropped loot, and he quickly checks it out. To his disappointment, he realizes that it is just water and jerky. He is pissed at this because he can easily just hunt for food. Nonetheless, he decides to check out the surroundings, and he soon finds a piece of armor lying around. He wonders if it is like the bulletproof vest from Loyal Ground. Seo-woon grabs it and puts it on, but realizes that it is too big for him. Before he can take it off, the armor adjusts itself on his body. The system then tells him that he has equipped an advanced orichalcum breastplate. Thanks to this, he will now have resistance against fire and wind magic to some extent. Seo-woon is pleased with this because it raised more than 2 stats. Excited with the armor, he decides to look around more to see if there are any other exciting things that he can find. After looking for so long and about to give up, he finds a cloak. He doesn't know what it does, but he puts it on and he learns that it is a night cloak. Once it is equipped and one stays still in the darkness, the user will blend in with the darkness. As long as he is hidden, he is not going to be detected by magic, and the sounds he makes will be completely suppressed. Seo-woon smiles because this is a rare find, which means he will be able to avoid anybody he comes across at night. Seo-woon figures out that this is the best item for him to stay alive. He was initially confused as to why there was a house in the middle of nowhere, but little did he know that it was a top loot area. Seo-woon concludes that he just had better luck on the second day. He continues moving forward, and after a while he wonders why he hasn't even seen anyone so far. He starts thinking it is because he dropped into a random location, but suddenly, he hears a player breathing heavily while running in the distance. He mumbles some words of regret, saying he might have had a chance if he had used the item with him on time. Seo-woon hides out in cover, and thanks to his cloak, the dude doesn't see him. The dude continues talking about how he never thought he would meet a mage out there, and Seo-woon is already thinking of taking down the dude with his crossbow since he looks weak. However, he hesitates to do this, but he reminds himself that he is just in a game and the dude is not real. Before he can make a decision, a bright fire shoots through the woods, taking down the dude. The dude is roasted to death, and after he disappears, he leaves behind a chest. Since there is no corpse and there is a chest, Seo-woon confirms that they are all in a game. Seo-woon also figures out that the chest would contain the items that the dude had, but at the same time, he doesn't even know where the attack came from. He hasn't finished thinking about this when the attacker appears right in front of him, wielding a flame ball in his hands. Seo-woon almost screams out in fear, but he covers his mouth to prevent this. He is thankful that he has the cloak because the dude just walked past him without seeing him. The dude then walks to the chest to loot, and Seo-woon figures out that he might be the next person to be hunted by the dude. He realizes that he might get killed by someone else just to gain a higher rank. Since this is the case, it is better for him to take the initiative and attack first. Seo-woon fires a bolt at the dude, but the bolt gets stuck in the dude's barrier. The dude immediately realizes that he's getting attacked, and he starts to panic because he realizes that he's made too much of a commotion. Seo-woon fires another bolt that gets stuck in the dude's barrier. The dude panics because he can't even see who is attacking him, and if this continues, his barrier will break. The player shoots a fireball at where he thinks Seo-woon is coming from, destroying the entire area. However, he is so wrong, and before he knows it, another bolt comes flying from behind. This bolt is able to shatter his barrier, and he frantically shoots off a fireball in every direction he can think of. Suddenly, a dagger flies into his head, shattering his brain, and he crashes to the ground. With sweat running down his face, Seo-woon realizes that he just won and walks toward the dude's chest. Seo-woon figures out that it would be better if he farms fast and gets out of there because it would be a big problem if someone noticed the fire and came in his direction. Seo-woon checks out the mage's chest first, and he grabs some random items from it. He finds Escrow's necklace, which is said to be made from pure gold, and it is a symbol that one is a mage of Escrow's magic society. Seo-woon considers it a trash item with no properties, but decides to keep it just in case. Just then, he finds another item, a circle's stone. This enables the user to engrave a circle around their heart that allows them to use mana. Once used, one can learn the magic of that circle. With this, Seo-woon realizes that he can become a mage just like the dude from earlier. He remembers that the dude didn't get the chance to use the item, which is why he said that stuff from earlier. Seo-woon can only offer his condolences, while promising to put the item to good use in his stead. He then carries the rest of the chest and dumps it in the subspace storage so he can check it out in a safe spot. After moving around for a while, he finds a house, which he considers a safe spot to use the circle's stone. Before activating it, he is informed that he is going to remain motionless for 3 hours and won't be able to take any other actions during that time. In addition, he is going to feel slight pain as the circle forms. Seo-woon proceeds with it, and as he goes through pain, he manages to suppress his screams so he won't attract any players. After the 3 hours are over, Seo-woon cannot believe that the system told him he was going to feel just slight pain. What he felt was more than slight pain, as it appears that he was dying. He realizes that learning martial arts is easy compared to magic. He then pulls up his info, and to his surprise, he realizes that he now has 2 jobs, which are being a martial artist and a mage. Since the 2 from before are dead, he decides to check the player count again. He was expecting something low, but to his utmost shock, he realizes that the number of survivors has dropped to 45. He checks the kill feed and realizes that most of the dead guys were killed by a particular player, Nam Sagwang. Some hours earlier, Nam, who has a kid-faced look, was seen running through other players like they were nothing. Nam aims to attract attention to himself by killing a lot of players in the most ruthless way that he can. On the 3rd day, Seo-woon is seen freaking out about just how many people have died already. Seo-woon hopes he doesn't run into Nam because he is definitely going to die too. At the same time, he realizes that he might get the chance to enter the top 10 if Nam continues killing people the way he is. He wonders what rewards will be given to those who enter the top 10, just as promised at the start of the game. His only guesses are items and money, but at the same time, he thinks there is a possibility that they would be able to use the skills and items they acquire in the game world in the real world. He soon pushes this thought aside because there is a killer running wild outside, but he is already counting his chickens before they hatch. Seo-woon assesses himself and confirms that there is more power moving within him. He wonders if what he is feeling is referred to as mana and then remembers seeing a magic book the day before when he was looting. The magic book is called the Magic Book of Windball. This is a magic that creates a sphere using wind, and the number of spheres that can be created increases with the user's power. Seo-woon then proceeds to learn it, and just like the martial arts book, it is absorbed directly into his head. Once he has fully absorbed it, he screams out the magic words to create a wind sphere. To his disappointment, he only creates a bunch of small wind spheres. Disappointed, he hurls the spheres at a wall, but to his surprise, this leaves even more damage than he thought. This is when it dawns on him that the spheres look stronger than they look, which means it is going to come in handy at some point. Just then, he realizes that he is feeling somewhat tired all of a sudden. His mana stat is pulled up, and he figures out that he has depleted his mana points already. Later on, the restricted zone appeared on the map, and the rank gradually shrank. Seo-woon decides to farm for more items while making sure he stays at the edges of the boundary. At the same time, he believes that his chances of running into another player should be reduced, since half of the players have died already. Nonetheless, he has no choice but to loot quickly before the restricted zone shrinks even more. Unknown to him, he's been watched by a white-haired old man. 12 hours later, he finds a cluster of houses, and lying around are chests from dead players. Suddenly, he feels a human presence around him, and he immediately unleashes the wind spheres in the supposed direction. This destroys the impact area, and upon looking closely, he sees blood dripping on the floor, which means there is an injured person in the area. He is convinced that whoever it is pretty strong since they managed to survive up until that point. He thinks of killing the person since they are injured, but he backs off to prioritize his survival instead. After his departure, the dude hiding behind the wall finally reveals himself, and he thanks his stars that he hid because he definitely would have died. The player steps out of the house, talking about how he would have easily taken Seowon out if he weren't injured. The dude makes his way to one of the chests to loot so he can quickly leave, but he hasn't even picked up one item when a bolt flies through his head. He crashes to the ground and dies, leaving his chest behind. It turns out that the attacker is none other than Seowon, who had hidden himself perfectly well while waiting for the dude to step out. He had only pretended to leave to draw the dude out. He is still boasting about his achievements when the white-haired old man appears behind him, telling him that he is pretty skilled. Seowon freaks out at the thought that he let his guard down. However, the old man urges him to chill out, telling him that he just wants to ask him a few questions. In panic, Seowon asks him who he is, and he replies asking Seowon if he is going to know who he is even if he tells him, because they all came from different worlds after all. Seowon chuckles nervously when he hears this, and deep down he realizes that the old man is quite different from those he's met in the past. The old man asks Seowon if he has participated in this kind of game before, and Seowon asks him what he means by this. The old man replies that he has been watching him for a while, and he noticed that he adapted pretty fast, so he is pretty sure that he already knows that whatever is happening isn't real. This gets Seowon worried because the old man has been watching him for a long time and he didn't even notice. Seowon finally replies, saying it is his first time being in the game world, but he has played a similar game in the world where he came from. The old man is intrigued by this, and he asks Seowon if the game he played is similar to the one they are currently playing. At the same time, the old man knows for sure that he and Seowon are from different worlds, judging by his appearance. Just then, the old man notices that it is getting dark, and Seowon tells him that it is already the third day. The old man asks Seowon if the moon in his world is as big as the one in the game world, but Seowon lets him know that the moon in the game world is bigger. The old man then suggests that Seowon explain the game that he played in his world, and Seowon tells the man that it is not an ideal place, since they might easily be ambushed. Since it appears that it's going to be a long conversation, the old man suggests that they go elsewhere. Seowon defensively asks the old man how he is supposed to know that he is not going to kill him. The old man ignores the question and grabs him, telling him not to make a sound because he clearly knows what would happen if he does. Before Seowon knows what is happening, the old man is already flying in the air while holding on to him. Seowon does his best to remain mute while gritting his teeth. Moments later, Seowon finds himself at the top of a tree, where the old man tells him that they are going to be safe. While the old man is aura farming by standing on the tree branch, totally balanced, Seowon is grabbing onto the tree. Seowon explains that his world is a world of advanced civilization, and the old man agrees to this because Seowon adapted quickly to the game world. Seowon wonders just how long the old man has been watching him, and suddenly, the old man tells him that he has been watching him since he landed. Apparently, he planned to enjoy the fresh air on the high mountains for the next 100 days, but he was intrigued by what Seowon was doing. The old man tells him that he only decided to talk to him because he was curious about why they were suddenly brought to the game world, and he urges Seowon to stop being cautious since he has no intentions of harming him. Seowon then replies that he has no idea why they were brought to the game world either, but the old man reminds him that he said he has a similar game in his world. Seowon says the difference is that people play it for fun, and they don't die for real. Seowon lets the old man know that he has no idea why they were abducted from their worlds by some strange, supernatural beings. However, Seowon says he is pretty sure that the game will serve as a good opportunity for someone, and the old man asks him what he means by this. Seowon reminds the old man that people don't die for real, and once someone is defeated in the game, they will be given a rank and a reward corresponding to their rank. Seowon believes that it is going to be rewards that are obtained in the game world, which include the skills and martial arts that one learns in the game world. However, he has no evidence to prove this just yet. Seowon says the old man might not need it, but he is pretty sure that those who are going through lots of struggles in life would see it as an opportunity to change their lives. The old man asks Seowon why he thinks his own life is without struggles. Seowon points out that the man looks like a martial arts master, so he is pretty sure that he has followers back in his world. Seowon says it cannot be compared to someone like him, who is pretty useless back in his own world, which is why he said it might be a huge opportunity for people who are struggling in life. The old man laughs out loud, telling Seowon that he sure says a lot of interesting things, but Seowon urges him to lower his voice so no one hears them. The old man then asks him why he was hovering his hands in the air, and this is when it dawns on Seowon that the old man has no idea how to turn on the map. Seowon then starts telling the old man tips and tricks that would be useful for him, and before he knows it, morning arrives pretty quickly. The old man drops them back on the ground and apologizes for taking his time, but Xiaowun assures him that it is nothing. Deep down, Xiaowun believes that it would be best for him to stay around the old man because it provides an avenue for safety. The old man then asks Xiaowun if there is any way he can repay him, since he learned a lot from him. Xiaowun immediately asks the old man if it is possible for him to learn some of his martial arts because he wants to survive until the end, and he needs the old man's help to do this. The old man laughs out loud, saying that what he asked for is possible, but he must also be prepared for the worst. Xiaowun asks him what he means by this, and the man replies that he basically means death, which means Xiaowun has the choice to make a decision on what he wants. The old man lets Xiaowun know that to succeed outside the traditional means, one has to pay a hefty price, and he asks him if he is prepared for this. Xiaowun then ruins the whole serious talk, reminding him that they can't die in the game world, and the old man has no choice but to agree with him. Since this is the case, the old man figures out that it is possible for him to use the method that he wants to. Xiaowun immediately asks the man if there is a way for him to get stronger, and the old man lets him know that it is worth trying at least. Xiaowun excitedly asks him what he is supposed to do, and the old man suggests that they see how much inner energy he has first. The man touches his head to feel his energy, and to his utmost disappointment, what he sees is a little amount of inner energy. The man tells Xiaowun that what he has is even smaller than what his house dog has, leaving him totally confused. Xiaowun reminds him that he already told him that there is no such thing as martial arts or internal energy in his world. The old man cannot fathom what is happening and just tells Xiaowun to sit in the lotus position in the meantime. Before the old man tries anything, he tells Xiaowun that he is going to feel so much pain that he will feel like he is going to die, but he still won't be able to move. Xiaowun asks what he is supposed to do when all of these are happening, and the man tells him to endure it because if he fails to do so, he is going to die. As the man starts the whole process, Xiaowun's senses shoot through the roof, and he can hear and sense everything in the surroundings. Everything appears to be normal until his internal energy starts to build up, and he screams out in pain while asking if he is going to die. It is as if his life force is shooting out of his body, and his pupils soon go completely dark. After a long time of pain, the man finally tells Xiaowun that it is all over. Xiaowun's face has turned pale already, and the old man commends him, telling him that being able to endure the pain means his body isn't all that bad. The old man tells him that he has fixed the flow of his qi, so his body will definitely be different from before. Xiaowun asks him what he is supposed to do, and the old man reminds him that he said he wanted to get stronger. Because of this, he has already pushed his soul a bit away to create an inspiratory gate in the said space. He explains that people are born to absorb the world's qi solely through breathing, but Xiaowun now has another gate to help him absorb special energy other than just through breathing. Xiaowun asks him what changed, and the old man explains that people consist of body, mind, and soul. These three are basically held together by life qi. He asks Xiaowun what he thinks would happen to the life qi if someone dies, and Xiaowun assumes that it is going to disappear. The old man lets him know he is wrong, but it disperses rather than disappears. In the end, the dispersed life qi gets absorbed by nature, which allows the life cycle to continue. However, there are those who consider this logical cycle a waste, and they even murder to absorb others' life qi. Those who have bodies full of others' life qi are in an unstable state, and in the end, the harmony of their yin and yang scatters, causing them to lose their martial arts or die. The old man tells Xiaowun that the mind technique he passed on to him allows him to absorb the scattered life qi to help him increase his internal energy. Xiaowun freaks out, asking if this means he might die, but the old man assures him that he is a bit different because, unlike them, who reconstructed their veins to create a gate, the old man used his soul for it. Since Xiaowun doesn't have inner energy at all, it is just like a blank sheet. The old man only tweaked his veins to allow him to absorb the life qi harmoniously. He asks Xiaowun if he understands why he gave him the mind technique that is forbidden in his world, Zhongyuan, and Xiaowun replies that it is because of the game's setting. The old man confirms this, commending Xiaowun's intuition on how quickly he catches on. The man reveals that he could feel qi where people died, which means the only way he can succeed via the mind technique he was taught is through murder. However, this doesn't happen to be an issue because if he wants to survive in the game world, he has to eliminate others. The old man is pretty sure that by the end of the 100 days, Xiaowun would have reached quite a level. The old man decides that it is time for them to part ways and lets Xiaowun know that it would be nice to see him again. Before he leaves, Xiaowun urges the old man to at least tell him his name, and he replies that it is Zhang Doxian. Xiaowun bows to Doxian, assuring him that he is never going to forget his help. Doxian urges Xiaowun to get used to breathing deeply because by accumulating inner energy through concentrating on his dantian, he is going to get stronger slowly. Before leaving, the old man tried to pull out the map just like Xiaowun taught him, and he was able to do it. Doxian then tells Xiaowun that he will see him again when the opportunity arises. Just then, Do-cheon leaps off into the distance, vanishing like he was never there. Seo-woon watches in awe and realizes just how cool it would have been if he could use the same trick as the man, because he would be able to go around comfortably. Nonetheless, Seo-woon decides to move to the limited area's outskirts as planned. After walking for the whole day, he finally reached his destination, showing just how big the map is. He soon finds a house with the lights on, and he knows that it is one of two things. It is either a house with no one inside, or it is a newbie who doesn't know how to turn off the lights. Either way, he has no choice but to go into the house. After searching for a while, Seo-woon only found a bunch of random stuff from healing scrolls, jerky, but nothing too expensive. He then remembers that he didn't even get to sleep the day before because he was busy talking to the old man. He then decides to get some sleep, and by covering himself with the cloak, he sleeps off. However, he overslept, and it is already day 5. Seo-woon soon wakes up to a player's voice who is searching through the house for loot. Seo-woon freaks out when he realizes that the sun is already up and he is still sleeping like a log. He quickly grabs his bow, and he waits for the player to come in. The moment the player steps into the room, Seo-woon fires a bolt at him, but the dude reacts so fast to this that he cuts down the bolt. Seo-woon freaks out when he sees what he is facing because of all the people he could run into. It turned out to be a freaking martial artist. Seo-woon then reaches into his subspace to unleash a bunch of hidden weapons at the player. While he is battling to block the daggers, Seo-woon lunges toward him and pushes him to the ground. He then grabs an arrow, and as he prepares to impale the dude, he starts begging to be spared, promising to give Seo-woon what it is that he needs. But Seo-woon ignores him and pushes the arrow into his head, killing him. After the player dies and his chest pops up, Seo-woon senses green energy in the area, and this is when he realizes that he is staring at life chi, which the old man was talking about. He absorbs the chi, and surprisingly, he realizes that his body is overflowing with strength. It then dawns on him that he is currently experiencing what is referred to as inner energy. Seo-woon cannot believe that just by absorbing only one person's life chi, his body feels much lighter and even stronger. He pulls up the status window and realizes that he now has a different stat regarding inner energy. His current inner energy stat is at 20 points, which is possibly what he got from the player he just killed. Seo-woon smiles because he has somehow gotten himself something amazing from the old man. Seo-woon figures out that relying only on killing to gather chi would be bad, and he has to find other ways. Seo-woon decides to check out the player count, and he is stunned to see that it has dropped to just 24 players in 5 days. While he is still checking the player count, it drops by 1, and he checks out the kill feed. It turns out that this player has just been killed by Nam again. Nam is basically walking around to kill anyone he lays his hands on, so the whole game can come to an end quickly. Suddenly, Nam notices Seo-woon's name on the kill feed and realizes that his name has appeared in quick succession. Nam has taken note of Seo-woon's name while Seo-woon is trying his best to avoid Nam. Seo-woon knows he has no chance against Nam because he barely defeated the player who ran into him, and there is no way he's going to go up against Nam the way it is. He then checks out the player he defeated, but he only found trash items. After this, Seo-woon decides to hide and survive until the number of players has dropped. A week later, Seo-woon finally realizes how lucky he was at the beginning of the game because the items he later found were mostly trash. However, he managed to stay in the forest near the borders of the restricted zone where he was busy hunting down werewolves for food to avoid players. At this point, he is already tired of eating jerky, and on the 12th day there are just 20 players left. Standing near the restricted zone, Seo-woon pushes his hand into the restricted zone to see how it is, and he realizes how hurtful it is. Seo-woon freaks out because for 1 week straight, the kill feed only showed Nam killing everyone. It appears that everyone else, like him, is playing it safe. Just then, he spots a cloud of smoke in the distance, and he figures out that there is a battle going on over there. Apparently, a bunch of players have gathered around in an attempt to take down Nam, whom they consider to be the greatest threat to them. Nam taunts them, asking them if they are cowardly enough to team up just to take down one kid. Nonetheless, he lets them know that he is thankful that they came to him themselves because he won't have to go through the work of hunting them down one by one. Nam asks them if they are ready to die, just as they have come there to kill him. Before they know what is happening, Nam leaps into the air, and in no time, he descends on one of them. He smashes the dude's head and one-shots him. A second later, another one is already dead, and the battle turns out to be a one-sided massacre, as Nam finishes them one after the other. At this point, Seo-woon realizes that Nam is going to win the game unless something unprecedented happens. Seo-woon watches in shock as Nam's name pops through the kill feed. He can't believe that Nam killed 9 players at once, and he starts wondering if Nam is hacking. After Nam is done with them, he feels no sense of pity whatsoever because they didn't even put up a fight. Surprisingly, there is a mage's staff lying around on the battlefield where Nam just wiped out the team players. Later that day, the Archmage finds his way to the battlefield where he finds the staff, and he recognizes it as one of his students' staff, Elizabeth. The Archmage immediately loses it and promises to avenge Elizabeth. Seo-woon, on the other hand, figures out that he is going to end up in the top 10 if he hangs out a bit more. At the same time, he knows that he has to get his hands on some really good items if he wants to survive. Seo-woon looks around by standing in a tree and he notices a mansion in the distance. He figures out that the mansion will probably be outside the safe zone the next day, which makes it the last spot for a proper farming run. Seo-woon makes his way into the mansion and he is blown away by how extravagant it is. He finds a royal guard's armor, but decides not to take it because it is going to weigh him down. However, he is convinced that there will be more good stuff in the mansion, so he continues moving around. Moments later, he finds an elixir that increases internal energy, but it takes 3 hours to use. Seo-woon is excited by this because with this, he can get inner energy without absorbing life chi. He continues looting and he finds some more good stuff, like a martial arts manual. However, he can't use the elixir yet because he has to remain motionless for 3 hours to absorb it. Moments later, he finds a cellar, and he believes that there is going to be something good in it. Suddenly, the entire house gets hit with a big explosion that causes Seo-woon to scram out of there. He leaps into the distance and manages to take cover behind some bushes while wondering what is happening because he is pretty sure that no one followed him. Suddenly, he spots the Archmage in the distance, and it turns out that the explosion was aimed at Nam Sagwang. The Archmage commends Nam for surviving his explosion, and Nam threatens to beat the Archmage up until he shuts his mouth. Unknown to them, Seo-woon is watching from behind, and he can't believe that the Nam who has wiped out 90% of the players is just a freaking kid. Escrow remains in the air and raises his staff in the air and unleashes a powerful lightning on Nam. Nam manages to dodge this, and Escrow yells at him, asking him how long he plans to keep dodging. He urges Nam to face him just like he did against Elizabeth. Nam might have managed to dodge the attack, but he knows that Escrow is not just all talk because he hasn't seen someone as strong as him before, even in Zhongyuan. In fact, some of his skills scare the shit out of Nam. Escrow then conjures another powerful lightning storm, which he plans to use to kill Nam. Seeing the lightning move straight at his position, Nam realizes that he is definitely going to die if he gets hit. He puts his all into dodging while leaping towards Escrow, aiming to cut him down, but Escrow's barrier is pretty tough, and he smashes Nam's body with his staff. However, this turns out to be just an illusion. At that same time, it starts raining, and Seo-woon realizes that it is because of Escrow's magic, which shows just how powerful he is. It turns out that the real Nam is making a run for it, and Escrow yells out at the top of his lungs, promising to find Nam to kill him. Nam manages to escape, but he promises to put up a better fight next time. However, he is wise enough to know that he must retreat at that point, so he can recover. In the end, Escrow descended to look around for Nam but couldn't find him. Seo-woon realizes that he only survived thanks to his cloak of hiding. Seo-woon then proceeds to the cellar he saw earlier and wonders if it is a safe that has something important inside. He opens the cellar and proceeds into the deep basement. He uses a lantern to create light up the way as he descends, and he is glad that he took the lantern when he was looting the day before. Upon getting to the basement, he sees food hanging around, and this is when it dawns on him that it might just be a food cellar. He is disappointed because there is not much place to get good items, and what he found was a freaking food cellar. However, after thinking about it, he realizes that the only thing he's been eating is tasteless jerky. An hour later, Seo-woon is seen smiling after he's eaten so much good food. After he is done feeding himself with food, he figures out that it is time for him to consume the elixir. In addition, he has a martial arts manual, which is called Unrestrained Fist. Apparently, the man who created the martial arts poured his heart and soul into it, but the art was later lost due to the lack of disciples. Seo-woon is not entirely impressed, but he believes that it is still better than nothing. He decides to just drink the elixir first and think about all that later. Upon gulping up the elixir, Seo-woon cries out in pain as his dantian is filled with so much inner energy. He realizes that the amount he absorbed earlier can't even be compared to what is currently running through his body. He senses that his movements have already become dull, which means he won't be able to move for 3 hours, just as the system said. 3 hours later, Seo-woon can finally move, and he lies on his back because he has been staying still for 3 hours, which is quite tiring. Seo-woon is proud that he even managed to survive for over a week without getting killed by Nam or Escrow. On the 13th day, Seo-woon emerges from the cellar, and just as he suspected, he was already near the restricted zone. He checks the player count, and to his surprise, it is down to 10 players. He wonders if someone died during the night, and when he checks out who it is, he is shocked to find out that it was Do Cheon. Apparently, he had taken himself out, leaving Seo-woon to start wondering how and why the old man did it. Even though he is happy that he made it to the top 10, he is not exactly happy with how it happened. Just then, the map starts to shrink, and Seo-woon figures out that it would be bad if he were killed by the restricted zone after everything he went through. He quickly moves away from the zone and figures out that he is going to stay with the same strategy that has kept him alive so far because for someone like him who is weak, this is the only way he can climb higher.
Seo-woon is minding his business when a large fireball suddenly comes his way, and he almost gets caught in it. He manages to dodge it, but fear grips him when he realizes that there is only one mage strong enough to summon a fireball that big, and it is none other than Escrow. He finds himself face to face with Escrow, and Escrow expresses his disappointment because he thought he had caught Nam. But it was just a new face. Seo-woon realizes that he got caught because he was using his newfound internal energy to move quickly, which caused him to run straight into Escrow. Escrow then asks Seo-woon if he knows where Nam is because this is the only way he is going to leave him alive. Unknown to the two, Nam is behind them, and he is smiling maniacally because they don't know what's coming for them. Seo-woon is forced to ask Escrow what he means by telling him where Nam is when they just met because there is no way he is going to know what the hell he is talking about. Escrow continues by saying Seo-woon and Nam look like people who are from the same region. While they are in the middle of this, Seo-woon spots Nam leaping toward Escrow from behind. Escrow suddenly senses something hitting his barrier from behind, and when he turns around, he realizes that it was Nam. Nam teases Escrow, telling him that he is fully recovered, but as it stands, Escrow lacks mana. Seo-woon, on the other hand, is freaking out because Nam just appeared out of nowhere. Nam punches Escrow's barrier, telling him that he is going to finish him once and for all. However, Escrow confidently tells Nam that his attack can't reach him. Before he knows what is happening, he senses his throat tearing apart. Nam has somehow broken into his defense, and he taunts Escrow, asking him if he's ever heard of enhanced energy. It is arm energy, which is a martial art under enhanced energy, and it is pretty rare, which is why people don't really master it. Nam admits that he never thought he would have to use it in the game world, and he tells Escrow to consider it an honor because he is the first person he will be showing the skill to. Escrow coughs up blood while grabbing his throat in pain as blood gushes out like it is nothing. Nam tells Escrow that it would have been easy for him to make it into the top 5, but his greatest mistake is meeting him. While the two are handling their business, Seo-woon is thanking his stars because Escrow would definitely have killed him if Nam hadn't shown up. Seo-woon decides to run away while the two are still distracted. Nam punches Escrow in the throat again in an attempt to finish him off. At the same time, Seo-woon turns around to wonder just how powerful he is going to be if he absorbs their life chi. With Escrow sitting in his own pool of blood, Nam taunts him, asking him why he is not acting all cocky again. Nam asks him if he has any last words, but still mocks him with this because Escrow obviously can't speak again since his throat is shattered. Just then, Escrow gets into Nam's head, telling him that Elizabeth, whom he killed, was his apprentice. Apparently, Elizabeth was kicked out of the academy because she was a woman, and Escrow regrets that he didn't stop her at the time. Nam continues trash-talking, saying he had no idea of knowing that Elizabeth was a woman, but Escrow lets him know that it is finally time to shut his filthy mouth. Nam wonders what Escrow is talking about, but just then, Seo-woon looks up and sees a meteor crashing down on their position. Nam panics because he has no idea how Escrow was still able to cast a spell, even though he is on his last shred of life. Escrow lets him know that it is the ultimate spell only an archmage can cast using their mana and life chi as the price, and it is called Armageddon. Nam makes a run for it, and Seo-woon also does the same. Seo-woon starts freaking out, regretting the fact that he didn't run away when he had the chance. The meteor ends up crashing down with Escrow, hoping to see Elizabeth very soon. The impact of the meteor leaves a devastating effect that shatters everything in the surrounding area, setting them on fire like a nuclear bomb. Meanwhile, there is another elf just like Escrow, who is watching the whole thing from a far distance. And when he saw the magnitude of the spell, he figured out that the only person who can do this is none other than Escrow. When everything finally calms down a bit, Seo-woon is seen groaning in pain while regretting his action not to have run away when he had the chance. However, he is not ready to die just yet, and he reaches into his subspace to whip out healing scrolls. He had saved up a ton of healing scrolls just for a situation like this. Seo-woon figures out that he never would have made it out of the meteor's range if he hadn't taken the elixir beforehand. After using the healing scroll, he realizes that he is still in so much pain, which means one scroll is not enough. In the end, he tears up all the scrolls he had saved up just to heal himself and relieve the intense pain that he is feeling. Seo-woon then checks the kill feed, and he confirms that Escrow actually died, and he is disappointed that he isn't able to absorb his life chi. However, he notices that there is no information on Nam's death, leaving him to wonder if Nam is still alive. Just then, he hears low sounds coming from a certain direction, and he traces them. To his greatest surprise, he finds Nam groaning in pain, begging for help. His lower body and his arms have been torn off by Escrow's devastating attack. He has a healing scroll in his mouth, and he begs Seo-woon to help him use it because he can't do it himself. Seo-woon is not entirely surprised because he knows it would definitely have been hard for Nam to dodge a meteor that was aimed directly at him. Since both his arms are unusable, it means he can't use healing scrolls. Nam urges Seo-woon to take the scroll in his mouth and help him to rip it so he can use it. Seo-woon then shocks the dude, telling him that he is the popular Nam. Seo-woon mentions that he's always wondered what kind of gear he is using to run through other players, and he was pretty sure that Nam would win, but he never expected to find Nam in this weak state. Nam desperately tells Seowon that he is going to make him the winner if he helps him this one time. Seowon ignores him and he reaches into his subspace to pull out his dagger because he knows getting Nam's life chi is going to give him an edge. Seeing his life flash before his eyes, Nam screams out, telling Seowon not to do what he is planning to do, since there are loads of strong players out in the game. Seowon smiles while telling him his name, so he can at least know the name of the person who is going to kill him. Nam yells out in pain, while assuring Seowon that he would never forget what he did. But Seowon finishes him off by pushing his dagger into the dude's head to finish him off. As the dude takes his last breath, Seowon is hit with a bit of guilt because Nam looks like a kid. The moment Nam dies, the area is hit with so much life chi that it shocks Seowon to his bones. Seowon starts absorbing the life chi while comparing Nam to a human elixir. While he is busy absorbing the inner energy, the other players get the notification that Seowon has killed Nam, and the active players are now down to 8. The archer elf sees this and figures out that the other players would finally get the freedom to move the way they want now that Nam is dead. Seowon, on the other hand, decides to check out the items that Nam dropped. He figures out that with the enormous energy running through his body, he should be able to face anyone he runs into. Seowon opens the chest and he is blown away by the amount of good stuff there. He finds Kaiser's ring, which greatly raises the user's agility. There is also another ring that raises one's strength immensely and another that raises stamina. There is even a ring that raises magic resistance. Seowon is left speechless as he wears all of the rings, and he realizes that Nam was basically farming only the good stuff. Seowon can't believe that Nam was acting like he wasn't overgeared while he was busy bullying other players. After taking the rings, Seowon decides to check his stats, and to his shock, his stats have shot up really high. With the kind of stats he now has, Seowon is confident that he has a chance to win the game. Apparently, Seowon also found a variety of martial arts manuals aside from the rings. However, he couldn't learn any of them because they all require prerequisites that he would have to learn first. Just then, he senses someone in the area and he is still looking around when a fireball comes from behind to hit him. A mage had appeared behind Seowon and he mocked Seowon for letting his guard down while looting, and he said Seowon must have been lucky to have killed Nam because he looks really dumb. Surprisingly, the attack doesn't even do anything to Seowon and he casually turns around, asking the mage who he is. The mage freaks out when he realizes that Seowon is safe and sound. Seowon mocks him, saying he only saw a flash, and it turns out that Seowon wasn't hurt because his magic resistance is 90. Seowon starts walking toward the dude and he freaks out, urging Seowon to stay away from him. He threatens to hit Seowon with another flame spell if he takes another step, but Seowon ignores him. The dude follows through with the threat, but his flames do nothing to Seowon. The mage proceeds to use even a greater spell to unleash an explosion, but the moment Seowon gets close to him, he casually activates one of the martial arts that he learned, the piercing fist. He punches the dude so hard in the chest that he feels his insides getting turned upside down. The mage was sent flying and was only stopped by a tree. Seowon is surprised that the martial arts that he didn't even think too much about turned out to be amazing. However, it appears that the strength of a martial art varies based on the amount of inner energy one has. Just one punch from Seowon is enough to kill the mage, and the number of players goes down to 7. Seowon figures out that an average mage won't be able to touch him again since his magic resistance has gone up to 90 points. He figures out that all the guys who were hiding because of Nam have started coming out, and it is about to be a long night for him. Seowon then leaps into the tree branches, jumping around just like Docheon, thanks to the new energy he has. 1 hour later, he is hiding out in the woods with his cloak active when he hears a loudmouth dude screaming out his name, telling him to come out and face him. The dude turns out to be a swordsman, Stanko, who is there to avenge his friend, the mage. Stanko is busy boasting when an arrow comes flying at him from nowhere, but he manages to block it. He trash talks whoever the attacker is, telling them that they are cowards to have decided to ambush him like that. Just then, he spots the archer in the tree, and it turns out to be the elven archer, Zurochana. Zurochana is surprised that Stanko knows who he is, and Stanko lets him know that he is a pretty popular person among mercenaries because he is a legend. Stanko then suggests that they team up to take Seowon down first. Zuro takes a minute to think about it before jumping down to take the offer. Stanko assures him that he's made the right choice, and he introduces himself to Zuro. Stanko assures Zuro that he is not going to regret his decision because he is quite famous within the guild. Deep down, Stanko has other agendas because he believes that Zuro is a dumb person, even though he has a good reputation. Just then, Zuro says something weird as he calculates a countdown with his fingers. He's in the middle of this when Stanko suddenly mocks him, telling him that he shouldn't have come close to him since he is a freaking archer. Stanko swings his giant sword at him, aiming to cut him down, but before his weapon can reach Zuro, an arrow comes out of nowhere, tearing through Stanko's head. Zuro mocks him, telling him that there is no freaking way he would have teamed up with trash like him because even a passing dog would piss on him. Just then, Zuro starts talking about how he needs to find Seowon, but the person he is looking for is right behind him. Seo-woon is busy absorbing Stenko's chi because he knows every key he can get his hands on is quite important. Just then, Zoro turns around to stare at where Seo-woon is hiding, and Seo-woon freaks out because the cloak of hiding should be working. Seo-woon starts panicking, fearing that Zoro has a skill that he doesn't know about. Just as his heart is about to drop from his chest, Zoro walks off, saying he is pretty sure that Stenko's things are trash, so he doesn't even need to look through them. With Zoro gone, Seo-woon falls on his arse in relief because he genuinely thought he was done for. He admits that Zoro has good senses, and with the look of things, he fears that Zoro might be his next opponent. Later on, Seo-woon realizes that the restricted zone is getting smaller, and since there are 87 days left, it is safe to say that the zone is moving according to how many survivors are left. Moments later, he finds himself in a field, and he decides to be careful because he is in a playing field, and any fight at that point will attract anyone else who is close by. Just as he is about to turn away, a magic attack comes flying in his direction. Seo-woon manages to get out of the way fast enough to avoid getting struck, but he notices that the magic attack was aimed at his exact position. He wonders how he is getting attacked when the cloak of hiding is active. He is still doubting the fact that they saw him when more magic attacks come straight at him. He freaks out and realizes that there is no way he is dodging all of them at once. Since it has come to this, he decides to fight back, and he takes a deep breath before unleashing the piercing fist to block the incoming attack. Seo-woon shatters the attack, and he is surprised to see that he is actually stronger than he thought. Seo-woon then leaps into the air to try to figure out who his enemy is. He looks around, and he soon finds the dude hiding in the tree. Meanwhile, the attacker is already freaking out because he used a lot of mana in his last attack, but he didn't even get to kill Seo-woon. Just before Seo-woon can do anything to the guy, another player appears from behind and pushes a sword into his chest, killing him on the spot. The new player mocks him, telling him that he shouldn't have used all of his mana, so he could at least reserve some for detection magic or barrier magic. Apparently, the new dude is an assassin, and erasing his traces is pretty easy for him. With the assassin killing the mage, the players drop down to 5, and Seo-woon has now made it into the top 5 players. The assassin then turns to Seo-woon, mentioning his name. Seo-woon is surprised that the dude knows him, and the assassin says it is obvious, since he was the one who killed the #1 public enemy, Nam. The assassin tells Seo-woon that the other players must be desperate to hunt him down too. The assassin urges Seo-woon not to resist and just go down quietly because he has never failed to take out a target he has laid his eyes on before. The assassin dashes towards Seo-woon with his 2 sickles, and Seo-woon prepares to block his attack. However, the assassin reaches him so fast before he can even blink. The assassin cuts through Seo-woon before he even realizes it. The assassin commends Seo-woon, telling him that he should have been sliced in half, but he appears to be sturdier than he thought. Seo-woon subtly agrees with him because his arm would have been chopped off if he hadn't covered himself in internal energy. At this point, Seo-woon has no choice but to admit that his opponent is quite strong. The assassin assures Seo-woon that he is going to die because he has never failed to assassinate someone in the dark before. The moment he mentions the word dark, it dawns on Seo-woon that he still has the cloak of hiding, which only works in the dark. At the same time, the assassin vanishes right in front of Seo-woon. He appears behind Seo-woon, but before he even gets the chance to cut him down, Seo-woon activates the cloak and disappears. The assassin freaks out as he screams out, asking Seo-woon where he is. Seo-woon commends the assassin, telling him that his stealth skills are pretty good, but they are nothing compared to the cloak of hiding. Before he knows it, Seo-woon appears behind him and he stabs him really hard. He tries to gaslight Seo-woon for attacking him from behind like a coward, but Seo-woon reminds him that he said he is going to end him, so he wants to see how he is going to do this. Realizing that he is about to die, the dude freaks out, suggesting that they team up to take on everyone else. However, his appeal falls on deaf ears as Seo-woon impales him from behind, killing him on the spot. With this, the number of active players drops to 4, and Seo-woon proceeds to absorb their chi. He also secured the healing scrolls that they dropped, but he looted really fast so he could get out, since he had made a bit of a mess, which would draw attention to him. Seo-woon finds a shadow clone manual in the assassin's loot, and this is a skill that allows the user to create a clone of themselves that can even fight. The number of clones that are created depends on the user's internal energy. The system asks him if he wants to learn the technique, and Seo-woon can only thank his stars that the assassin didn't know about internal energy, because if he had learned the technique, it would have been hard for him to kill the assassin. On the mage, he found a grimoire named Carmen's Eyes, and it is the highest tier detection spell that is supposed to look through any stealth skill. However, he can't learn it yet because his circle is too low to do so. He realizes that this was how the mage was able to figure out where he was, because the grimoire allows him to see through the cloak of hiding. He is checking out the grimoire when an arrow flies past his ear, cutting his cheek. Without a doubt, Seo-woon figures out who the archer is because there is only one archer left, and this is Zoro. Before he can even rest from this, a magic attack descends on his location. He is surprised because this is the first time he will see such a magic attack, but it is already too late for him to run. so he just has to concentrate all of his internal energy into his fist to use the ultimate piercing fist. By putting all of his effort into the strike, he is able to block the incoming attack, but this still leaves him injured.
Since there were 2 attacks at the same time, he figured out that he was being attacked by a team. Suddenly, a low-budget scanner appears behind him, swinging his sword at him. Seo-woon manages to dodge the strike on time, and this is when it dawns on him that he is getting triple-teamed. The trio who are onto him are Zuro-chana, the Divine Archer, the Demon King's right arm, Chiron, and Senturk, the King of Croisen. At this point, Seo-woon is left wondering what he is supposed to do.
Seo-woon is disappointed that just when he was about to win, he ran into teamers, and the only way out of a situation like this is to create an avenue for them to betray each other. Since he would have to figure out what their relationship with each other is, he believes that this is going to be difficult because he has never seen them before. Chiron offers his greetings to Senturk, but Senturk tells him to screw off because he is a mere black magician. Chiron reminds Senturk that there is something more important than status, and this is for them to team up to obtain better rewards. When Seo-woon hears this, he realizes that the trio didn't even have plans to team up in the first place. Seo-woon crouches behind the bush to use his cloak in an attempt to get away from the team. Senturk then tells Chiron that they have to take care of Seo-woon's stealth first before they start talking about teaming up. Chiron then tells Senturk that they don't have to worry about this because he is the right guy for the job. Chiron then raises his hands to unleash a magic spell that releases a mini sun in the sky to make sure that the whole area is rid of darkness. Senturk commends Chiron, telling him that he is actually smarter than he looks. Seo-woon freaks out because he never thought there was a method like this that would easily make the cloak of hiding useless. Chiron then talks about how glad he is that Nam actually took care of Escrow, who would have been a pain to deal with. Chiron lets Seo-woon know that it is his own turn to die in the name of the Demon King. Chiron then unleashes a magic attack, and he lunges at Seo-woon. Seo-woon panics, but at the same time he tries to think of a way out. He remembers that mages are weak at close range, which means if he can get close, Chiron might end up getting caught up in his own magic. Seo-woon kicks his plan into action, and he dashes toward the dude, aiming to finish the fight in close combat no matter what. Chiron realizes what he is trying to do, and he pushes the magic towards him, but Seo-woon is not about to give up. He figures out that he needs to wrap his body in as much internal energy as possible so he can reduce the damage to his body. He is ready to push through the magic attack no matter what it takes. In the process, he is informed that the cloak of hiding has been damaged and it will not be functional until it is repaired. Seo-woon cannot believe that his internal energy is cracking up, and he has just lost the cloak of hiding too. Believing that Seo-woon is dead, Chiron stops attacking because he doesn't think there is anyone who would survive the magic attack that he just used. Suddenly, Seo-woon emerges from the explosion, and before Chiron knows what is happening, Seo-woon has already closed the distance. He looks totally bloodied, but Chiron stops him using a magic attack that holds him down with undead hands. Seo-woon admits that Chiron is stronger than all the mages he's fought so far. To break free from the bind, Seo-woon activates the Shadow Clone and shocks Chiron, who thought Seo-woon was just a fist guy. Seo-woon leaps toward Chiron as he freezes up in fear. Surprisingly, Senturk attacks Chiron from behind, stabbing him in the back. The attack pierces through his body to pierce Seo-woon too. Chiron cannot believe that someone who calls himself a king just did something so cowardly, and Senturk defends this by saying there is no honor as great as victory. In his defense, Senturk tells Chiron that he never said he was going to team up with him. Senturk teases Chiron as he dies, thanking him for taking care of Seo-woon. Senturk then turns to Zuro, who is standing on the cliff, saying they are the only ones left. However, Zuro smiles at him, telling him that he is celebrating too early. He is confused about this until Seo-woon suddenly appears beside him, punching him so hard that he is sent flying into the distance. Senturk's armor shatters as he flies through the air and he crashes into a wall, leaving a big explosion. With Senturk in the wall, Seo-woon concludes that it is down to him and Zuro. Zuro commends Seo-woon for surviving because he thought he was dead for real, but it appears that it was just his clone. However, Seo-woon tells him to stop talking and just fight him. Zuro then tells Seo-woon to stop being impatient because he still has more pressing business on his hands. It turns out that Senturk survived Seo-woon's attack, and even though his face looks bloodied, he appears to be in prime condition. Senturk expresses his shock that Seo-woon is still alive because he felt his sword connect, but it turns out that it was just a clone. In addition, Senturk is impressed that Seo-woon was able to destroy his armor, which was Croisen's finest. Sensing the danger, Seo-woon takes off his shirt and tells Senturk to stop talking. He asks the two if they are coming at him one at a time, or if they plan to jump him together. Senturk then tells Seo-woon that he is about to regret making him give his all. Senturk suddenly vanishes, and before Seo-woon knows what is happening, Senturk has reached him. The next thing Seo-woon knows is Senturk's sword piercing through his left arm. Senturk boastfully tells Seo-woon that there is no one who has ever bested him when it comes to speed. Senturk lets Seowon know that he has lost use of his arm because this was his plan all along. Seowon watches in horror as his shoulder gets pierced because he wasn't expecting Senturk to be that fast, since he believed that he was just a strength-type character. Nonetheless, Seowon is not ready to lose to him because he worked too hard to get to where he is, and he decides to trust the inner energy within him. Without hesitating, Seowon breaks Senturk's rapier. He then pulls out the broken half lodged in his arm. He proceeds to hurl it at Senturk using the chi palms. The blade cuts through Senturk's face, and this only pisses Senturk off more because Seowon just ruined his beautiful face. Seowon doesn't waste time before whipping out a healing scroll, which he tears to heal his arm. Since he is left with half a blade, Senturk decides to use his aura blade, and he commends Seowon for even pushing him to the extent that he has to use this. Seowon gets back on his feet, and he decides to go all out too. He activates the shadow clone, releasing 8 clones at once. Senturk admits that Seowon is pretty annoying with his tricks, but he is confident that he will be the one to come out on top in the end. At the same time, Seowon urges Senturk, whom he calls a fraud, to prepare himself really well because he is also going all out against him. Senturk agrees with him, suggesting that they have a go at each other without wasting time. Deep down, Senturk knows that his aura blade has a limited duration, which is 2 minutes, and if he wants to have a chance at least, he has to finish the battle within that time. At the same time, Seowon is aware that his inner energy is nearly gone, and he has to end the fight pretty quickly. Seowon then makes the first move as he dashes towards Senturk. Senturk aims his sword at him, but Seowon surprises him from behind by punching him really hard in the back. Senturk angrily turns around and swings at Seowon, but the one behind turns out to be a clone. Senturk is shocked to see that what he destroyed was just a clone when he literally felt his hits connect. Since it has come to this, Senturk decides that he is just going to cut all of the clones down without trying to find the real body. He is in the middle of this thought process when Seowon shows up beside him, punching him really hard in the face. The hit is so brutal that Senturk is left wondering if the Seowon who just hit him is the real one. As if Seowon knows what he is thinking, he urges him to stop trying to find the real body because the clones he created can all land attacks. In fact, they are as good as the original body, and there is no way Senturk is going to tell the difference. Just then, 2 clones combine their attacks and go after Senturk, but he narrowly dodges the strike by jumping backwards. With the clones exposed, Senturk unleashes his aura blade, destroying the 2 at once. By taking out 2 clones at once, he figures out that their durability is trash, and with this, he has just 5 clones left to defeat. However, there is only about 1 minute left for him to use the aura blade. Meanwhile, Zuro is surprised that Senturk is struggling really hard against Seowon. Senturk soon screams at Zuro, telling him to stop spectating and join the fight so that they can take Seowon down together. Senturk assures Zuro that if he can make him win, he is going to reward him with anything he wants once they return to their world. Zuro casually urges him to keep his eyes on his opponent. Senturk turns around just in time to see Seowon coming for him. He immediately reacts by unleashing the aura blade, but Seowon bows to dodge the strike, and it flies past him. Seowon then unleashes a powerful palm strike, but to his surprise, the attack is blocked. This leaves him completely open, and Senturk has full access to do what he wants. He doesn't waste time before pushing his blade into Seowon's chest to create a big hole in it. Before he can celebrate this, Seowon vanishes, revealing that he just defeated a clone and not the real body. Senturk is ultimately disappointed, and it dawns on him that Seowon has been toying with him all this time. Senturk loses it at the sight of being humiliated, and he yells at Seowon, telling him that he no longer cares about winning. Senturk enters into berserk mode, assuring Seowon that he is going to tear him apart with everything he has. Zuro sees this and realizes that Senturk has transformed into the scary king of madness. Senturk then unleashes a powerful blade aura coupled with his insane speed. He dashes toward the 2 Seonwons in his presence, and he tears them apart with one strike. With this, he realizes that he has just 2 opponents left, which are the real body and the clone. The 2 bodies then rush toward Senturk with devastating punches. Senturk manages to catch the body on his right, but before he can start celebrating, he realizes that the dude he just defeated is none other than a clone, too. Senturk now has the body on the left to deal with, and he concludes that this is the real Seowon. The 2 then lunge toward each other, aiming to finish the fight in one strike. Senturk tries to land his strike, but Seowon blocks the strike with his feet. Senturk admits that Seowon is pretty good when it comes to hand-to-hand combat, but he has something else in the bag. Senturk then unleashes the aura blade lightning form to produce a powerful and scary destructive force that shatters Seowon's body. Seowon crashes to the ground in pain, urging Senturk not to finish him off because Zuro appears to be the only one benefiting from their fight. However, Senturk ignores him and pushes his sword into his chest, destroying Seowon on the spot. At the same time, Senturk's aura blade skill runs out, and he thanks his stars that he finished Seowon right at the last minute. Just as he is about to start celebrating, he realizes that something is definitely wrong. It dawns on him that finishing Seo-woon doesn't give him the sensation that he took down a real body yet. Before he realizes what is happening, Seo-woon appears behind him and grabs him by the head. He pushes his head in and shatters it, ultimately defeating Senturk on the spot. With Senturk defeated, Seo-woon admits that he would have lost if he hadn't worn Senturk down with his clones. Since Senturk is gone, it is now down to Seo-woon and Zuro. Zuro chuckles, admitting that he didn't expect Seo-woon to actually defeat Senturk. Zuro thanks Seo-woon, saying Senturk is a pain to deal with. Zuro also tells Seo-woon that he has no chance since he has used up everything he has against the stubborn Senturk. Zuro calmly aims his bow at Seo-woon, telling him that it is time for him to die by his hands. Seo-woon watches in horror as an arrow flies toward him at full speed, aiming to tear his head apart. Before the arrow could reach him, Seo-woon had absorbed the chi from Senturk's body. Even though it is not as much as what he got from Nam, he believes that this should be enough for him to take on Zuro. Before Zuro's attack can reach him, he uses the Shadow Clone skill to split up and then lunge towards Zuro. Zuro is pissed that Seo-woon is using the annoying clone technique again, and he draws his bow, letting off a cold smile. He shoots an arrow straight at Seo-woon, but instead of a clone, the arrow catches Seo-woon's real body. It hits Seo-woon on the leg and he crashes to the ground. With Seo-woon on the ground, Zuro assures him that there is no escape for him this time around. He follows through with his word by firing arrows into Seo-woon's hands to pin him to the ground. Seo-woon yells in pain, asking Zuro how he instantly figured out which one was the real him. Zuro smiles, saying he only made a guess. Seo-woon doesn't want to believe this, but Zuro already has an arrow aimed at his head. He commends him for making it all the way to the end, and he offers him his respect, but Seo-woon tells him that he doesn't need his damn respect. Zuro then fires an arrow into Seo-woon's head, killing him on the spot. With this, the game is declared over, and Zuro wins by killing Seo-woon. Seo-woon soon finds himself in the waiting room, where he gets to see Zuro standing over his body. He groans in frustration because he did all the work, but Zuro came in at the end to take the prize. However, he can't complain because he took advantage of Nam when he was defenseless. The system congratulates Seo-woon for making it to the top 2, and he is informed that he now has what it takes to participate in the next game. With this, Seo-woon confirms that there is a next game. Seo-woon is informed that, including his kill bonuses and all, he has earned 140 reward coins. Seo-woon is confused by what they mean when they say coins. Just then, the system summoned all the items that were acquired by Seo-woon. As the items come up, Seo-woon realizes that he actually picked up some really good loot. The system informs Seo-woon that he can take the items he obtained by spending his reward coins. Seo-woon checks out the Shadow Clone technique, and he freaks out when he realizes that it costs 130 coins, which is almost all of his coins. Surprisingly, the system lets him know that the top 5 survivors get a chance to spin a roulette wheel to win a random item. Seo-woon is surprised that there is a gacha, and to make it even better, he gets to spin twice because he took second place. Seo-woon is glad to hear this because this means he can save up some coins if he manages to get the Cloak of Hiding or the Shadow Clone. The wheel starts moving, and the first thing that pops up on the screen is the Shadow Clone. Seo-woon screams out frantically, urging the wheel to just stop right where it is. However, it stops only when it gets to Escrow's necklace. Seo-woon holds his head in frustration because of all the things he could pull, he went ahead to pull the cheapest. Seo-woon cannot believe that he looted a lot of good stuff only to be given garbage. Just then, it dawns on him that he still has one more chance. He immediately calls on every divine being he can call to help him out. The wheel starts moving, and when it gets to the subspace ring, he screams out just like before, telling it to stop, but it continues moving. Surprisingly, it ended up on the Shadow Clone option this time around, and Seo-woon celebrates like a madman. Seo-woon knows that with this, he can use his coins to get other good stuff, since the Shadow Clone is the most expensive of all. The Shadow Clone technique is handed over to him, and the system tells him that he can use his coins to purchase additional items. The moment he is done, he will be transferred automatically. After going through his loot for a while, Seo-woon made his choices instead of moving around aimlessly. In no time, he was done shopping, and the system wished him luck in the next game. Seo-woon flies through an empty space, and before he knows it, he finds himself back in the alleyway where he initially disappeared from. Sitting on his palm is the subspace ring that he got from the game, and this immediately tells him that he wasn't dreaming. He equips the ring and then picks up his bag. As he walks away, Seo-woon smiles because he can feel that there is something really different about him now. Seo-woon knows that there is going to be a next game, so he has to get ready for it. Seo-woon is prepared to take first place in the second game no matter what it takes. Seo-woon then heads to the studio apartment that his parents got him, which is close to the school. He was supposed to stay there studying for his English test while preparing to return to school. However, at this point, his focus is on growing stronger with the things he brought back from the game. The moment Seo-woon enters his room, He sits in the lotus position because he is not ready to play the next game, like a noob. He notices that his energy core is empty, and he wonders if he used all his inner energy in the final battle. Seo-woon figures out that it would be better to cultivate as the old man taught him so he can recover as much as possible. Seo-woon remembers the information the old man gave him when he was in the game, and how he had told him that he would like to see if he was up to the task of getting strong like him or not. 4 hours after he started the process, Seo-woon let out a groan of frustration because the amount of inner energy he had gathered was so little. Seo-woon realizes that everything is different from the game, and with the way things are going, it is going to take years before he can even feel something inside him. Seo-woon decides not to waste any more time and just organizes the items he brought back. While looking through his items, he wishes that he had been able to get a better martial art than the one he got. It then dawns on him that he might have to start training in the martial art little by little, just like inner energy. He realizes that if this is the case, there is no way he is getting strong anytime soon. The system asks Seo-woon if he would like to learn the martial art, and it dawns on him that the system from the game works in reality too. Seo-woon starts swinging his arms and legs in his room, performing the martial art technique. After he is done learning it, he realizes that it can't be compared to when he was full of inner energy. Seo-woon checks his storage to see what else he has, and he realizes that Escrow's necklace is part of the items he brought. Since the necklace is said to have been made from pure gold, Seo-woon bites down on it to confirm, and to his surprise, it is not a fake. Seo-woon figures out that with the weight of the necklace, the gold will be worth at least 10 million won. The moment he realizes that the necklace costs 1 coin and it is worth so much in reality, his goblin face pops on because he can literally become rich by bringing back 10 of these necklaces from the next game. The necklace might be worthless in the game, but when it comes to reality, it holds some really good value. Another item he got was the refined troll's blood, which is supposed to guarantee a healthy life for a whole year for whoever drinks it. Seo-woon only brought it back because the effect sounded tempting, and if he manages to sell it to some rich terminal patient, it would go for whatever price he wants. At this point, Seo-woon is convinced that the game is going to be a huge opportunity for him. Just then, his tummy starts making weird noises, and it dawns on him that he has just been eating trash in the game. But he didn't realize that he was hungry because he was busy cultivating. Seo-woon figures out that it is time he gets himself some real food. Seo-woon then heads to a restaurant named Grandma's Dinner, and he orders a set meal. Seo-woon is soon served a 5,001 set meal that he once considered a luxury. Tears roll down his face as he eats something good for a while because he almost died from eating jerky. The grandma sees him crying and she urges him to stop crying because it is going to ruin his appetite. In addition, he still came to eat at the restaurant just yesterday. Seo-woon lets the woman know that the food is too delicious, which is why he is crying. It then dawns on Seo-woon that the time in the game doesn't carry over into reality. After he is done, he thanks the old woman for the meal, and the woman tells him to stop whining while urging him to come back again. As he walks through the street, Seo-woon wonders when the next game will start because he needs to gather more inner energy before the game. Seo-woon remembers that he brought the Ring of Strength, and he decides to try it out. He equips the ring and wonders if it works in reality, just like it does in the game. Seo-woon decides to try it out by jumping, and to his surprise, he leaps so high into the sky that he quickly returns to the ground. He cannot believe how much strength is flowing through his body, and he hopes that no one saw what just happened. Seo-woon knows that he is just going to drag himself into some big trouble if his strength gets reported. Seo-woon then returns to his room to try out something else, which he didn't want to use before. However, he has changed his mind because things appear to be implemented accurately from the game to real life. Seo-woon reaches into his storage, and he brings out the most expensive item he brought, which is the elixir of insight that costs 50 coins. He remembers that back in the game, he wasn't able to move for 3 hours after using the elixir, and it was as if his insides were on fire. Seo-woon then gulps down the elixir, and the potion hasn't even touched his insides when it kicks into action. Energy bursts out from every hole in his body, and he screams out in pain. 3 hours later, Seo-woon's neighbor had called the police because the wall was heating up. The woman tells the 2 officers who showed up that she tried knocking on Seo-woon's door, but the handle was too hot to touch. The officers tell her that she should have called the fire department instead of calling the police. In her defense, she mentions that it was hot, but there was no fire. The officer tells the woman not to think too much about it because Seo-woon might have turned the boiler up too high. The old woman insists that she knows what she is talking about, and to avoid further argument, one of the cops walks to the door to check it out. He tries to open it, but the door handle burns him so hard that he screams out in pain. The old lady uses the opportunity to use the "I told you so" line. The officers then call out for whoever is residing inside the house, telling Seo-woon to open the door. Upon hearing the police's request, Seo-woon slowly opens the door, and the officers are shocked to see sweat running down his face. Seo-woon replies that he was just a bit feverish, which is why he turned the boiler up a little. His face is totally red from the heat, and he still has the nerve to say the fire department should have been contacted, not the police. The police reply that they still have to respond when there is a complaint, and they ask him if they should call an ambulance for him. Seo-woon refuses, saying it is just a mild cold, but he is definitely going to be fine after some rest. The police decide to back off, since Seo-woon claims that he is fine. As they leave, the police tell the old lady to stop calling them for issues like this because it is just stress for them. Seo-woon then closes his door and he crashes to the ground, thinking about how he nearly died. Apparently, the elixir's energy boiled like fire, and if not for white martial physique arts, he wouldn't have been able to contain it. This tells Seo-woon that, unlike the game, there is still a risk when using elixirs in reality. Nonetheless, he has to try out his skill. He then uses the unstoppable fist and swings his palm forward, which immediately unleashes a massive force that destroys his chair. Seo-woon is able to see how effective the techniques are, but at the same time, he has to sell some of the items he brought back to at least buy himself a chair. The next day, Seo-woon heads to a public gym in an attempt to polish his skills, but he soon realizes that it was a mistake because it is too crowded. He is in the middle of his training when he spots some high school delinquents. The leader of the group is smoking a cigarette, and an old man walks up to him, telling him that it is not right for students to smoke. The dude rudely tells the old man to screw off because even his own parents don't say anything about him smoking. The old man continues by saying that the delinquent's parents must have done a bad job raising him. This immediately pisses off the dude, and Seo-woon could see that something bad is about to go down. The delinquent raises his arm to slap the old man, but Seo-woon comes out of nowhere, kicking the dude in the face. The dude is sent crashing into a wall, leaving him totally helpless. Seo-woon confidently tells the dude that he has no right to punch an old man, no matter how rude he was. Just then, a big dude, who is also a delinquent, appears on the scene, and Seo-woon realizes that he just made everything more complicated than he planned. Apparently, the dude Seo-woon just kicked is the big guy's younger brother. The big guy asks Seo-woon if he was the one who beat his brother up, and Seo-woon replies that his brother caused the problem first by showing no respect to the elderly. Seo-woon tells the dude that high school kids should be informed that smoking in public is not allowed, and they might get into trouble for it. Seo-woon laughs at the dude, telling him that he should have educated his younger brother better. Seo-woon tells the dude that he might have gone a bit overboard, but he didn't have a choice but to. Seo-woon is still yapping when the big guy throws a punch at him, but Seo-woon dodges the attack and he counters with a punch that sends the dude flying into the distance. The big guy groans in agony as he coughs up blood, and Seo-woon panics because he didn't control his strength properly. Instead of staying down, the big guy decides to act more rashly as he pulls out a butterfly knife, telling Seo-woon that he is going to kill him. Seo-woon sees this and realizes that the brothers are birds of the same feathers. The big guy rushes towards Seo-woon and takes a swing at him, but Seo-woon dodges the attack. The dude takes another swing, but Seo-woon easily dodges the attack. As the fight progressed, Seo-woon could see that fighting ordinary people was too easy for him. Tired of the dude swinging around, Seo-woon goes low and kicks the dude in the foot to knock him down. Before taking a punch at the dude, Seo-woon figures out that he has to control his strength because if something goes horribly wrong, he is screwed. He decides to stick to 50% of his strength and he punches the dude with the undefeated palm strike. Even with 50% of his strength, the dude is sent flying into the distance and he crashes into a tree with his face totally disfigured. Those who are on scene start taking pictures in shock, but Seo-woon is the biggest person in shock since he had no intentions of beating the dude up that much. He nervously teases the already knocked out dude, telling him to stop acting. Seo-woon then walks over to the brothers, telling them to behave themselves from that moment forward. Before things get a little out of hand, Seo-woon rushes off from the scene. As he leaves, Seo-woon starts regretting his decision to have shown his strength to a regular person, because if the two had died, his life would have definitely been over. Seo-woon figures out that he would need proper training to control his strength perfectly. 1 month after this, Seo-woon is seen meditating in his room when a call comes in from his mother, asking him if he's eaten. The woman tells Seo-woon that she's calling because she didn't hear from him and she became worried. She asks him how the academy is, and he replies that it is manageable. He knows he obviously can't tell her that he has been training in martial arts instead of studying. Seo-woon then asks after his father, and this is when the woman tells him shocking news that his father was in a car accident. Seo-woon freaks out when he hears this, and he starts asking his mother how bad it is and how it even happened. The woman reveals that it happened while his father was making deliveries. Apparently a car ran a red light and hit him really hard. It turns out that the surgery costs are going to be insane, and she is already worried. The woman then does something heartbreaking, asking Seo-woon if he has any money left from his allowance so he can send it to them. Seo-woon calmly asks his mother the total cost of the surgery, and the woman reveals that it is about 1 or 2 million won. Seo-woon reaches into his storage space to grab Escrow's necklace, and he tells his mother not to worry too much because he might have a solution to their problem. Seo-woon promises to call his mom back, and he immediately leaves his room. He narrates how his parents spent their lives moving from one rented home to another, and his dad worked harder than anyone he knew. However, as his father aged, his income shrank, and since his job was replaceable, he was forced to change workplaces often. Seo-woon shed tears uncontrollably as he talked about how he was a child who had burdened his family from the very beginning. However, at this point, he is done being this child. Moments later, he arrives at a jewelry shop, and he asks the attendant how much the necklace costs. The lady checks out the necklace and admits that it was crafted excellently, but it doesn't appear to be a local item. Seo-woon lies, saying it has been in his family for 5 generations. Before she can continue yapping, Seo-woon simply asks her how much the necklace is worth. The lady then asks her if he is sure he wants to sell it at the shop because it might be worth even more. Seo-woon lets her know that his father needs emergency surgery, and even though he shouldn't be selling the necklace, he has no choice. Since his case is urgent and he doesn't even have a certificate of authenticity, the lady decides to help him. Moments later, they concluded their deal and Seo-woon was given over 10 million won. Seo-woon is confident that with this money, his parents won't lack in the meantime. He could also see how excited the attendant is, which means he undersold the necklace, but Seo-woon is not pissed since he needed quick cash. Seo-woon figures out that he just has to think about better ways to sell the items he brings back from the game. Seo-woon then sends money to his mother, and he calls her to inform her that he's sent the money. His mother is shocked when she sees the amount he sent, and she asks him where he got that amount of money from. She wants to know if her son took a loan or something, but he lies to her that it is part of the money he saved up when he was in the army. His mother apologizes for the inconvenience, but he assures her that she has nothing to worry about, promising that he will visit the hospital soon. Seo-woon then takes the train, and on his way back home, he hears some guys talking about a video that is circulating online. It is a video of a dude firing off a fireball with his palm. Everyone watching is shocked by this, but Seo-woon isn't because this is obviously a spell from Cloyd's survival. However, cold sweat runs down his face when he realizes that he is not the only one in Korea who has been taken into the game. Suddenly the video gets deleted again, and the dudes talk about how the video kept getting deleted after it was uploaded. Meanwhile, an agency is seen fretting about the videos that keep getting uploaded. The boss asks his subordinates what is going on, and they let him know that the number of survivors has surged dramatically, which has made it really hard for them to track all of them. The boss angrily throws an ashtray at the dude who spoke, telling him that the number of agents should have increased alongside the new survivors. In addition, he wants them to bring in the dude who is always uploading the video, since it appears that he is an attention seeker. The dude assures his boss that he would, and the boss yells at him, telling him that he should stop bleeding because if he bleeds on his carpet, he is going to kill him. Another agent attends to the bleeding dude and starts healing him with his power. In the end, the boss screams at his underlings to get going so that they can get everything under control. Another month later, Seo-woon has not stopped training for once, and during this time he has gathered a good amount of inner energy, which he has even gotten used to too. However, his biggest issue is that with his current inner energy, he can only summon one shadow clone, and the duration is not very long either. Nonetheless, Seo-woon uses his clone as a training partner, offering an efficient way to do things. However, the training time doesn't take too long, since the clone vanishes fast. Seo-woon is disappointed because, back in the game, he was able to control 8 shadows at once when he was fighting Centurk. He wonders if he used too much inner energy in the last battle because his Dantian is pretty pitiful in comparison. After that night's training, Seo-woon decides to just head back home to continue cultivating because there is no point sulking about what has happened. He notices that he is a bit hungry after the training, and he decides to check the subspace to see if there is anything useful that he put inside. Seo-woon is going through the storage space when a bright light suddenly hits him, and he is transferred into the game lobby, where other players are already waiting. Seo-woon looks around and realizes that there are a few people who look confused compared to his first time in the game world. Seo-woon is still wondering if he has landed in the game world when he sees a thank you message on the screen. The system reveals that the tutorial for the game will now be explained. Seo-woon is surprised that there is a tutorial because it was skipped the last time. Seo-woon smiles, since this means that there are more beginners this time around. Seo-woon looks up to see a high school dude sitting on the giant statue. From his uniform, Seo-woon could see that the dude was a high school student from Korea. Seo-woon ignores the dude because he is basically trying to aura farm for attention, which is typical of high schoolers in the modern era. However, Seo-woon believes that the dude has played the game before, but can only hope that the dude is not as strong as Nam. Moments later, they are informed that there are 200 players participating in the game, and the lowest difficulty is just to get into the top 200. The map that has been chosen for the game is the Valley of Contras, and rewards will be distributed starting from rank 20. When Seo-woon sees this, he realizes that there is no risk of failing. And since there is no risk of failing, Seo-woon figures out that he is just going to play the game like a psycho. After the tutorial was done, Seo-woon was already expecting that they would be thrown into the game, but something shocking happened. The system informs the players that it is going to be a duo game, and they are to find someone to conduct a duo registration with. Basically, the game is going to continue until one team is alive, and even if only one player lives till the end, both players in the team will get the reward. Another notification pops up, telling the players that they have 5 minutes to create a duo or play the game solo. Seo-woon figures out that there are more people this time around, which is why they made it a duo game. Seo-woon doesn't exactly believe in picking a teammate because if one's teammate ends up being trash, it would just become dead weight. Seo-woon immediately thinks of the high schooler, saying he is going to be a good player. However, by the time he looks at the top of the statue, the dude has already vanished. Since it has come to this, he decides to just find anyone he can duo with it. He starts walking around asking other players to be his duo, but most of them have already gotten themselves a partner. Seo-woon looked around so hard until the timer ran down, but he couldn't find anyone. Since it has come to this, he decides that it is better he face the game solo. Without wasting time, the game begins, and they are all deployed into the game. From the sky, Seo-woon notices scattered villages around the valley that look good for looting, and he picks one of them. Seo-woon plans to land and wipe out anyone who comes after him. The moment he hits the ground, he looks around to see 3 teams landing close to his position. Seo-woon doesn't waste time before dashing towards one of the landing zones because after the first game, he started replaying the whole thing in his head. He had conducted countless mental simulations for the second game, which is why he had been waiting for the game. One player is busy suffering from motion sickness when Seo-woon appears behind him, punching him so hard from behind. The dude screams out in pain, asking Seo-woon why he is attacking him, but Seo-woon ignores him and knocks him out completely. Just then, the system tells Seo-woon to finish off the opponent because his teammate has a chance of reviving him. Seo-woon is impressed that the game has such a nice system. Just as he finishes off the guy, his teammate appears out of nowhere. The opponent appears to be a tank, and he lunges really hard at Seo-woon, sending a chill down his spine. Seo-woon is sent crashing to the ground, but he manages to maintain a good stance to avoid falling over. The enemy is covered in armor and has a lance as his weapon. He asks Seo-woon if he was the one who killed his teammate, but Seo-woon just ignores him so he can assess the situation. From the look of things, he figures out that the dude appears to be someone who specializes in close combat. Due to the nature of his skill, the unstoppable fist that relies on bare hands, the most important thing to consider is how to deal with opponents armed with bows, spears, or swords. In reality, there is no way to face such weapons, and Seo-woon has been practicing his technique via image training. Instead of begging or even getting scared, Seo-woon is smiling because he finally has the chance to try out the technique. The enemy then attacks with his lance, and Seo-woon lunges toward him. Just as the pointed lance is about to hit him, he uses his palm to sway the weapon to change the direction, giving him an opening to his opponent. The player is shocked to see Seo-woon easily changing the trajectory of his attack. Before he knows what is happening, Seo-woon delivers a powerful palm strike, the spatial strike that creates a big hole in the dude's chest. Without wasting time, Seo-woon crushes his helmet and then smashes his head in with his foot, ultimately taking out the team. The moment he takes out the dude, his chi is released and Seo-woon is surprised at how much chi the dude has. Seo-woon admits that nothing compares to absorbing chi in the game. With one team gone, Seo-woon figures out that there are just 4 people left who landed in the same area as him. Before he even gets the chance to rest, an arrow comes flying towards his head, but he manages to dodge just in time. The arrow lodges into the wall and Seo-woon looks in the trajectory of the arrow to see where it came from. Before he can even move, another arrow comes straight at him. This one cuts close as it pierces the left part of his face. Seo-woon thinks it is over until multiple arrows start flying in his direction, forcing him to make a run for it. He dashes into the woods, thinking about how accurate the archer is from that distance. He wants to believe that this person is Zoro, but he trashes the thought as he realizes that the person shooting at him is not as strong as Zoro. As he continues running through the forest, he wonders if the dude is alone or if his teammate is chasing him. However, Seo-woon is not exactly bothered by this because he knows that the moment he figures out the archer's position, his teammate will definitely surface. Seo-woon soon makes it to the rooftops and he compares his current situation to the past game. He knows that in the past game, he would have been camping for loot, but in his current situation, he has set his sights on chi, so the enemies have basically become fuel for him to absorb. Just then, Seo-woon is hit with an arrow straight in the head, putting a hole in his head, but the archer senses something strange about the whole thing. Even though he thought he had hit Seo-woon, he had vanished from the rooftop. Unknown to him, what he had hit was Seo-woon's clone, and before he knew it, Seo-woon appeared in the room where he was hiding. He kicks him so hard that he is sent crashing to the ground. Surprisingly, Seo-woon senses that he didn't hit the real dude too. Just then, the dude appears behind him, and this is when Seo-woon realizes that the dude was using the cloak of hiding. The archer fires multiple arrows at him, but Seo-woon is able to dodge the attacks again. The archer then jumps out of the building in an attempt to escape, but Seo-woon chases him down. He soon double-crosses him, cutting him off, and Seo-woon tells him that he doesn't know where he got the cloak from, but coming at him with it in broad daylight is really stupid. Seo-woon tells the archer that he might have reached the top with the cloak if he had just decided to camp. Seo-woon is about to attack the dude when his teammate shows up. Seo-woon finds himself stuck between two fellas. One is an archer, and the other wields two swords. Seo-woon starts regretting not killing the archer fast before his teammate showed up. However, there is no crying over spilled milk, because he has now found himself in a 2 versus 1 situation. Suddenly, it dawns on him that he actually has the advantage in this situation because he is the one with the numbers. As the two prepare to engage him, Seo-woon activates the shadow clone and makes a run for it. The archer targets him and fires a triple shot that takes him out at once. The archer is still smiling when Seo-woon appears behind him, puncturing his chest before he even gets the chance to react. Seo-woon mocks the dude, telling him that because his eyes tell him that he is somewhere doesn't actually mean that he is there. With the archer knocked out, Seo-woon has the double wielder to deal with. The swords guy believes that Seo-woon is an illusionist because of the weird tricks that he uses. Seo-woon casually tells the dude that he is just a returning student, and if he wants to revive his ally, he would have to take him down. The dude dashes towards Seo-woon at great speed, telling him that he is not only going to take him down, but he is going to make sure he survives until the very end. The player unleashes a double strike attack, but Seo-woon prepares a counter. However, his plan immediately flops because he didn't know that his opponent was quite fast. Seo-woon gets so deep before he even realizes it, and the dude has gotten behind him already. Seo-woon knows he would be dead if he hadn't surrounded himself with inner energy. The player turns around, telling Seo-woon that it is actually impressive that he didn't get cut in half, which means he has more skills than the illusions he uses. The player confidently tells Seo-woon that he doesn't know how he did it, but he should know that his neck is next. Seo-woon plans his next move and figures out that if he can't finish the enemy with one hit, he just has to find a way to counter. However, he has to think of a way to counter the dude's movement, and it suddenly dawns on him that the current round has no penalty for failing. Since it has come to this, Seo-woon remembers that there is something risky that he can try out. He decides that instead of following the enemy with his eyes, he is just going to try to feel his energy and killing intent. Seo-woon closes his eyes as the dude closes in on him because he knows that he is not worth taking the first position if he can't overcome an early hurdle. Seo-woon has practiced inner energy for 2 months, and he is now a completely different person. By the time Seo-woon opens his eyes, he has taken down the dude. He pins him to the ground, and the dude struggles in frustration, asking Seo-woon how he was able to block his ultimate attack so easily. Seo-woon crushes the dude's head into the ground, and this is when Seo-woon realizes that he has broken through another wall. With Seo-woon taking down 2 teams, the player count reduces to 196 players. The dude leaves a bulk of inner energy behind, which Seo-woon is glad to absorb. He looks through the archer's loot to find a recovery scroll, which he uses without wasting time. However, he is devastated when he realizes that he damaged the cloak of hiding during the battle. He knows that with the cloak, he would have easily soared to the top. Nonetheless, he decided to hold on to it because it might come in handy later. He continues checking, and he finds the lightning-struck cottonwood bow, which allows the user to shoot arrows containing faint lightning energy. Seo-woon doesn't fully understand what the system means by lightning energy, since he didn't feel anything from the arrows that the archer was shooting at him. In addition to this, he finds a multi-shot skill book that allows the user to shoot multiple arrows at once. This is when Seo-woon realizes that the dude wasn't originally an archer, but learned how to shoot arrows in the game. Seo-woon then learns it and decides to try it out. He fires off an arrow that leaves a destructive impact, and Seo-woon figures out that the bow will be better than the crossbow he picked in the last game. After this, Seo-woon decides to rest and loot a bit before resuming his activity. After a while of looking through the houses, he doesn't find anything rare, and he believes that it is because they are just village houses. He wonders if there is something rare like the cloak of hiding. Standing at the window, he notices a tall tower in the town center, and he figures out that these are the best places to loot. He immediately walks over to the tower, and since the door is locked, he figures out that no one has been there. As he enters the tower, he closes the door just in case, and he starts climbing to loot. Moments later, he reaches the top, and he doesn't even find anything useful, leaving him totally disappointed. He angrily punches the wall, complaining about how things sometimes don't go as planned in the game. Just then, he spots 2 dudes below the tower, looting the houses in the environment as if they are the only players in the game. Seo-woon is left wondering how he should deal with the team, and suddenly, he sees the 2 making their way to the tower. The 2 assume that no one has entered the tower because the door is closed. The moment they step in, they find a healing scroll, which the 2 concludes it's a good omen. Seo-woon, who is watching the whole thing unfold, realizes that he didn't even notice the healing scroll at the entrance because there was so much junk around. However, he is thankful that he didn't see it because it has successfully helped in being the perfect trap. Since the 2 are excited about a trash healing scroll, Seo-woon figures out that they are freaking noobs. Seo-woon doesn't hesitate before diving towards the two from above, aiming to land the first strike to take them out. The two suddenly spot a shadow on the ground, and before they know it, Seo-woon lands between them. Just by landing, and the mage hasn't even cast a barrier, Seo-woon realizes that the dude is trash. He goes after the mage, punching him, but before he can land the finishing blow, the mage unleashes a flame attack. Seo-woon dodges the strike, and the mage ends up hitting his teammate. His teammate yells at him, asking him why he is setting him on fire, and the mage apologizes, saying he was aiming for Seo-woon and not him. When the fire finally goes out, the two figure out that Seo-woon has no teammate, and they decide to attack him together. The dude on fire swings his axe at Seo-woon, but he dodges the attack. The dude continues swinging, but Seo-woon keeps dodging, frustrating the axe guy. Seo-woon forces the dude into where he wants him until he ends up pushing the axe into his teammate. The dude quickly apologizes, saying he didn't do it on purpose, and the mage says he knows this. However, he urges the dude to take the axe out of him. Before his teammate can do this, Seo-woon appears behind the mage, smashing his head in. Seo-woon mocks the dude, thanking him for allowing him to get the last strike on the dude. Seo-woon wanted to kill them both with one strike, but the dude with the axe had armor covering his chest. With the armor off, Seo-woon wonders if he is going to be faster because guys like him have an armor debuff. The axe guy angrily swings at Seo-woon, but he leaps into the air to dodge the attack. The axe dude watches in horror as Seo-woon descends on him with a kick to the head. Seo-woon returns to the air, and the dude confidently tells Seo-woon that he won't be able to stay in the air forever. The moment Seo-woon comes into his range again, the dude unleashes a powerful aura strike that cuts through Seo-woon and almost cuts through the building. Seo-woon admits that the dude's strength is incomparable, but Seo-woon tells him that he can't make his way out of this situation with just brute strength. The player angrily lunges at Seo-woon, telling him that he would like to see him run his mouth when he is dead. Seo-woon manages to block the strike, and the battle intensifies between the two. Unknown to the axe guy, he is actually fighting a clone. The real Seo-woon is behind him, mocking him for fighting a shadow. Seo-woon steps out of the building, and this is when the player notices him. He yells at him, asking him when he got there. But Seo-woon ignores him and focuses on the building that he almost cut in half with his axe. Seo-woon teases the dude, asking him if he is not curious about what is going to happen if he kicks the building. Seo-woon kicks the building with force, and the dude is still asking stupid questions about who he is fighting. It soon dawns on him that the dude he is fighting is not real at all. He screams out in fear as he sees the tower coming down on him, and he begs Seo-woon to save him. The tower crashes on him, killing him on the spot. It was after Seo-woon killed the dude that he realized that he didn't even get the kill because he died under the rubble. He calls himself a retard for not thinking this through, but fortunately for him, the chests still appear from under the rubble. Seo-woon is glad that the chest spawned because he would have just wasted a lot of time digging around like a dog. Seo-woon then starts going through the chests and he finds a bunch of good stuff from rings to manuals. After he is done looting, he figures out that it is time to move. He even found a mage's robe that blocks wind and rain but offers no defense. He realizes that the zone is moving and he marks the center of the map so he can make his way there. After checking the rest of the houses and he doesn't find anything, Seo-woon leaves the area. Even though the distance was quite far, Seo-woon was able to travel faster because he had mastered the same technique the old man used. Moments later, Seo-woon gets to a location where he is informed that he has entered a monster spawn zone. Apparently, on certain maps, there are specific zones where monsters appear. In addition, a boss monster will appear, and if a player successfully hunts the boss monster, a special item will be dropped. Seo-woon realizes that there are more monsters in this game than in the previous one, and he berates the game for not passing such information beforehand. It turns out that there are also buff monsters aside from boss monsters, and these buff monsters grant players special buffs for a limited time. Suddenly, he gets hit with a loud screech that forces him to cover his ears. It turns out that two players are engaging monsters close to him, and Seo-woon manages to sneak up on them while they are distracted. He realizes that the two are a combination of a mage and a martial artist. Seo-woon aims down his bow, ready to take out one of them. The two players take out monsters while fighting back to back. The swordsman uses his sword skills to cut down the monsters, while his teammate, the mage, shoots them down with lightning. Suddenly, an arrow flies toward their direction, and it barely misses the mage. The mage immediately figures out that they are being ambushed, and he tells his teammate to ignore the monsters so that they can fight the player ambushing them instead. However, the swordsman refuses, saying they are almost done with the monsters, so they should just wrap it up before focusing on the player who is ambushing them. The mage yells at him, telling him to forget about the reward first because they are about to be screwed over by another player. Seo-woon realizes that the two are suffering from an internal conflict, and he decides to prey more on this. He fires more arrows at the team, which is accompanied by lightning. The mage manages to block the attack, and the swordsman tells him to cast another barrier. The mage yells at him, saying he is aware of this, and he quickly puts up another barrier. However, he doesn't think his barrier will be able to hold out, and he suggests that they run away. The The greedy swordsman refuses, saying that if they run at that moment, they are basically going to lose all the reward for slaying the monsters. He tells the mage that this is too big a loss, so it is better that they finish up the monsters so that they can continue moving. Just then, the mage's barrier breaks, and he decides to put up a defensive wall. The swordsman sees this and screams at the mage, asking him what the hell he is doing. Seo-woon is actually happy that the mage put up a wall because this just made things better for him. Inside the wall, the mage tells his partner that instead of just wasting mana casting barriers, he believes that it is better to put up a wall. The swordsman tells the mage that this only makes it worse because they also can't figure out where Seo-woon is. The mage argues that Seo-woon won't be able to get over the wall, but the swordsman lets him know that he just announced their location to the enemy. The mage tells him that they just have to continue fighting until the wall comes down. While they are still busy fighting monsters, the swordsman tells the mage that he is going to disband the team if he does something stupid like that again. Just then, the wall shows how useless it is when a ton of arrows descend upon them. They manage to survive the first wave, and the swordsman asks his partner if he can get rid of the wall quickly, but he reveals that it takes about 5 minutes. On the outside, Seo-woon pulls out a magic explosion scroll that explodes 10 seconds after use. He activates it and connects it to one of the arrows. He counts to 5 before firing the arrow into the wall. The two are busy having a stupid discussion when the arrow lands between them, unleashing a massive explosion that shatters everything on impact. One of the serpents dashes towards Seo-woon after the explosion, but Seo-woon one-shots the monster. Moments later, the mage emerges from the rubble, but he wishes he had stayed dead because he only raised his head to Seo-woon's arrow. Seo-woon thanks the dude and the mage for voluntarily pulling up a wall because this is why he is going to be eating well. The dude knows that he is dead, and he just closes his eyes as Seo-woon fires an arrow through his head. The chest then appeared immediately, and Seo-woon figured out that the mage had already died in the explosion. He looks through their loot and finds a 7-star cultivation art manual, which is the foundation of the 7-star sword art. The system asks him if he would like to replace the white physique arts with the 7-star cultivation art, but Seo-woon refuses. This basically makes the manual useless to him, but he is thankful that not all the loot is useless. He finds Tokar's ring in the dude's chest and realizes that this was how the dude survived the explosion. After this, Seo-woon checks the rubble to find the mage's chest. Seo-woon celebrates when he opens the chest to find Escrow's necklace. He also finds a grimoire, which is too high tier for him to learn. After he is done looting, he wipes out the serpents that were giving the two trouble. He is disappointed that the two were struggling against the monsters. After killing the monsters, he realizes that they dropped items. He picks it up to find out that it is called Tears of Lamia, and it is a material that is used for various magic experiments or for crafting items. He also finds Tyron's necklace, which slightly increases the user's agility. He knows the necklace is pretty useful, but he has no idea what the tears are for. Seo-woon then finds a place to cultivate inner energy while thinking of killing the buff monster so he can get the advantage. However, he needs to know if he is even strong enough to take on the boss monster. In addition, he has to know if the other players have the same thought process as him. On the second day, Seo-woon checks the player count and realizes that 60 people have died already. And among the 60, he got only 8 kills, which he considers not impressive. Seo-woon then decides to move toward the marker he placed at the center of the map. As he walks through the hot desert, Seo-woon starts missing the nice weather he enjoyed in the first game. Because of how hot it is, he wonders if he should have waited for the sun to set before moving. Suddenly, he spots a bird in the sky, carrying a chest, and Seo-woon suspects that it is a supply drop. Seo-woon doesn't hesitate as he chases down the supply drop. He is the first to get there, but before opening it, the system informs him that if he does, his location will be revealed every 30 minutes for the next 6 hours by a red light. Even with the risk, Seo-woon proceeds to open the drop, hoping to get something amazing that is worth the risk. Before he even checks the item in the chest, the red light shines over him, giving away his location. This immediately creates a sense of urgency in him that he has to get the items and vanish. However, the first item he gets blows his mind completely because it is the Cloak of Hiding. He also finds a red cloud pill, which is a spiritual elixir that boosts inner energy, but renders the user immobile for 10 hours after use. In addition to this, he finds a 4th circle stone that allows the user to master 4th circle magic or higher, but leaves the user immobile for 3 hours after use. There is also the Windblade grimoire that allows the user to run like the wind. Movement speed scales with the user's internal energy. After going through everything, Seo-woon figures out that the cloak is useless in daylight, and he can't even use the elixir or the red pill immediately. However, he knows that if he survives for just 6 hours, the rewards will be pretty good. Seo-woon decides to learn the Cloud Stride skill in the meantime, so he can leave his current location as fast as he can. Once he learns the skill, he starts cutting through the desert at a great speed, but he suddenly feels enemies approaching his location. Since they are still quite far away, he figures out that he would be able to get away. But at the same time, he has to be conscious since he doesn't know what kind of techniques they are using to chase him down. To put them off, Seo-woon drops a chest box and hides somewhere, hoping that they take the bait. The two soon find the chest, and before they can back off that it is a scam, they find the tears of Lamia. It appears that the two are a combination of a Roman warrior and a mage. The Roman dude assumes that Seo-woon looted as fast as he could, then ran off. The two then decide to follow the direction that they believe Seo-woon took. However, it was just as Seo-woon wanted it, and he is glad that they easily fell for the trick. Since he has just 30 minutes, Seo-woon figures out that he has to put much distance between them before then. 30 minutes later, Seo-woon is resting when he checks his surroundings with detection magic to see that the number of players who are after him has increased. Even though they are not far, Seo-woon knows that they are also not far away. This leaves him wondering if many players gathered toward the center of the map. Just then, the red light goes off, and what follows are massive balls of fire falling from the sky. Before the fireballs hit, Seo-woon dashes out of there, but barely. This is when it dawns on him that the players are already catching up at an alarming speed. He wonders if they are using some sort of movement technique. Suddenly, the two emerge from the fire, and Seo-woon freaks out when he realizes that they are on horseback. Seeing how they are closing down on him, Seo-woon engages the shadow clone technique, but the shadows get trashed almost immediately. This only gets the two angrier, and their zeal to kill him increases. The Roman warrior hurls a spear at him, shocking Seo-woon. He can't believe that they have seen through his defense already. The spear barely misses his head, but cuts through his face. The spear hits the ground, and Seo-woon grabs the spear. He concentrates his inner energy before hurling the spear at the two. The warrior gets caught in the spear's trajectory, impaling his arm, breaking through his armor. The warrior immediately figures out that Seo-woon is not a player to be joked with. He tells his comrade that they would have been at a disadvantage if Seo-woon had allies. Seo-woon is facing off against the two when arrows come flying in from behind. Seo-woon manages to dodge the arrows, but the arrows kill the horses instead. Seo-woon hasn't even taken a breather when another set of arrows passes by his head, finishing off the horses. Seo-woon turns around and realizes that a new team of archers has just shown up on the scene, and he is in the middle of it all. Seo-woon is devastated because getting caught in a pincer attack is the worst situation he could find himself in. Since there are two teams on Seo-woon, the two teams are staying on the edge to see who is going to take Seo-woon out first. Seo-woon notices the hesitation in their movement, and he teases the archers, asking them where their earlier confidence vanished. Seo-woon says it is pretty obvious that out of the three teams that are present on the scene, two will not make it out alive. Seo-woon figures out that what the archers would like is to get him on their side so that they can easily take out the warriors team. Basically, if they take Seo-woon out first, it is going to become a 2 versus 2 situation with no sure guarantee of winning. Seo-woon figures out that they would prefer to turn into a 2 versus 1 so that they can finish him off in the end. Seo-woon then comes up with a plan, waiting for who is going to fall for the trap. The warrior starts boasting, telling the enemies to come at him, but the mage urges him to chill out because provoking the enemy is not going to do them any good. Seo-woon can see that the dude is quite brave, but he is pretty dumb. The archers then reply with their own threat, saying there is no way they are letting anyone from the kingdom walk out alive. The archers appear to be elves, and they promise Seo-woon that they are going to spare his life if he sides with them. Seeing the bad blood between the two teams, Seo-woon realizes that there is a lot going on in the universe that he doesn't even know. The two teams are busy persuading Seo-woon when he pulls out the 4th circle stone. Seo-woon tells the mage that he basically knows how important the stone is. He also turns to the elves, saying they can sell it for a fortune too. Seo-woon shocks them by placing the stone on the ground and revealing his proposal. He tells them that whatever team wins will get the stone. Seo-woon claims that it is a fairer way than him picking a side. Once he is done pitching his proposal, Seo-woon leaps out of the way, leaving the two teams to fight each other. Deep down, Seo-woon uses the circle stone as bait because there is no way anyone has the time to use a circle stone within 6 hours. He considers it a small price to pay to stall 4 people at once. In addition, whoever survives is going to come after him, so he can just take back the stone then. As he runs through the desert, he realizes that he still has 5 hours left for his location to keep showing on the map. Minutes later, he arrives at the center of the map where he had marked. It turns out to be a deep canyon, and he is worried that a boss monster might even appear from underneath. Just then, the red light shines on him again, and this is when he realizes that it's been 30 minutes already. Before he knew it, the dudes he had shaken off earlier showed up on the scene. The mage unleashes a powerful flame on him, but as the attack is about to hit, Seo-woon activates the Phantom Step. He creates a bunch of clones that give him the time to escape, but they all get burned. Even Seo-woon himself gets hit, and he screams out in pain. The explosion becomes even bigger, destroying everything in the surrounding area. After the fire clears off, the warrior berates the mage, saying they can't loot Seo-woon because he's fallen into the deep canyon. The mage admits that he should have held back a little. The mage then suggests that they leave before the pillar of light from earlier draws a crowd. The warrior asks the mage if they are not taking Seo-woon's items because he already has a rare item, so he doesn't mind. Apparently, the warrior has the chain sword, which is a high-powered blade that can be wielded like a whip, changing shape at the user's will to dominate long-range combat. The mage hears this and realizes that he is on the losing end because he doesn't have any rare items yet. The mage then tells his teammate to wait for him while he goes down to check with levitation magic. The warrior doesn't agree to this because they don't even know the amount of treasures Seo-woon has in his loot. The warrior tells the mage that he has to come with him, and the mage asks him how he plans to go down there. The warrior stubbornly replies that he is going to find a way out. In the end, the warrior ties a rope around the mage's waist so he can climb down with it, while the mage uses levitation magic. As they descend into the deep canyon, the mage tells the warrior that he is going to cut the rope if he accidentally falls. The warrior panics and urges the mage not to cut the rope no matter what, but the mage teases him, saying they are going to see about that. The warrior cannot believe that the mage is saying trash like this when they are supposed to be teammates. Apparently, when using levitation magic, mages are defenseless because they can't use other spells, which is why it is considered a very risky magic to use. Only a small number of high-level mages are capable of casting other spells while floating. The two continue steadily, and the mage tells the warrior that they are almost at the bottom, but the warrior yells at him, saying it is easy for him to say since he is not the one who is at risk of falling. The mage reminds him that he was the one who insisted that he wanted to come. Suddenly, the warrior feels the rope slacking, and he screams out in fear. He quickly grabs onto the wall while yelling at the mage for doing something so dangerous. However, by the time he turns around, his partner has been murdered. The upper body has been severed from the main body already. Since the dude has no use again, the warrior cuts him off and the mage's body falls into the water below. This is when the warrior realizes that below the canyon is a lake. He cannot believe that they were being careful when there was something that could cushion their fall. He then leaps into the water without a care in the world. He excitedly raises his head out of the water, but something important suddenly occurs to him, and this is the fact that he didn't even bother to ask who killed his freaking partner. Before he knows it, Seo-woon is already onto him, and his main body is still submerged in the water. The warrior is shocked when he realizes that Seo-woon is still alive. Seo-woon goes after him with a bone-punching strike, but the warrior is not just about to sit around and die. He activates his chainsword, and it projects a long-range weapon in an attempt to tear Seo-woon's head off. However, Seo-woon grabs the sword and lets it wrap around his arm instead. The blades cut his arm really deeply, but he doesn't let go. Seo-woon then grabs the warrior's head with his left arm, telling him that he shouldn't have come after him if he wasn't ready to die. With a powerful force, Seo-woon pushes his head deep into the water before releasing inner energy to shatter the warrior's head. Seo-woon's kills are immediately updated on the kill feed the moment he wipes out the team. After this, he drags their chests out of the water, and seeing how heavy the chests are, Seo-woon realizes that it would be best if he stayed away from fighting underwater. Going through their loot, he finds a fire orb that activates a sealed fire spell in the direction that it is thrown. There is also the Phoenix Strike, which is a Circle 4 technique. This releases a phoenix that grows larger the closer it gets to the target. Because of how high the circle requirement is, Seo-woon figures out that the mage is quite strong. He is pretty sure that it would have been hell for him if he hadn't taken him out while he was defenseless. Seo-woon gladly takes the chainsword even though he doesn't have swordsmanship skills yet. Suddenly, he senses a presence around him, and he vanishes before the players get to him. The players arrive at the place where Seo-woon just looted to find nothing of value, but Seo-woon suddenly appears behind them. With a fatal punch, he takes out one of them. Seo-woon has been able to hide himself perfectly thanks to the Cloak of Hiding, and with this, he finishes off the team. Some hours later, his final position is displayed on the map. During this time, Seo-woon had killed a lot of players, and the player count dropped to 101. Later on, the two elven archers from before show up. However, the two don't even last long before Seo-woon wipes them off the game. Once the 6-hour handicap is over, Seo-woon brings out the 4-circle stone and the red cloud pill. He then finds the best place where he can boost his stats. Once he gets the best spot, Seo-woon prepares himself because using both items will take at least 6 hours. Nonetheless, he doesn't mind, since he hasn't rested in a while. The first item Seo-woon starts with is the elixir, and after 6 long hours, he had consumed both items. As he steps out of the dark cave, he realizes that his body is already adjusting to the items he used. In addition, it is already night, so darkness is going to be to his advantage. He checks out his stats and realizes that they have increased a bit. However, they are still not comparable to when he absorbed Nam's energy. He immediately spots some players in the distance, and without hesitation, he goes after them because everyone he sees is nothing but fuel to his growth. Till the next morning, Seo-woon continued hunting, and he decided to check out the player count. To his greatest surprise, the players were already down to 42 in just the third day. The system informs the players that the locations of boss monsters and buff monsters will be displayed on the screen. Apparently, boss monsters are marked in purple areas, while buff monsters are marked in red areas. Since the location of the buff monster is close to him, Seo-woon decides to go check it out. Even though the journey is quite risky, he is not one to ignore a buff. Moments later, he arrives at the location, and he almost pisses his pants when he realizes that the buff monster is a giant scary snake. With this type of size, Seo-woon concludes that it is going to take at least 6 teams to just beat it. Before he can make a U-turn, the monster opens its eyes and catches him on the spot. The snake hisses violently at Seo-woon, but he is too scared to even move from where he is. He freezes on the spot as the snake moves dangerously close to him. Suddenly, the snake calms down, and it returns to its usual hibernating position. Seo-woon wonders why the snake suddenly calms down and assumes that it must only attack when one is within a certain range. Seo-woon knows that it would have been too bad if the snake had made the first move before the players attacked it. Seo-woon gladly backs off while deluding himself that he is not scared. Minutes later, Seo-woon hasn't run into any player, and he can't believe that players are already playing it safe just after 3 days. He suddenly feels a presence in the woods, and he decimates the trees in front of him with a wind attack. Just then, he hears a kid's voice coming from the distance, and he decides to check it out. Surprisingly, he finds a scared kid in the middle of the bush, and Seo-woon apologizes for scaring him. The kid looks really battered, and his skin is rough. Seo-woon is still asking him how old he is when the kid's partner appears from behind, swinging his giant sword at Seo-woon. Seo-woon easily dodges the attack before unleashing a palm attack that sends the dude flying into the distance. The dude coughs up his insides as he crashes into a tree. Seo-woon immediately figures out that the dude formed a duo with a kid just to lower his opponent's guard so he can strike them from behind. Seo-woon calls the dude the lowest scum he has ever met in the game because the kid's body is covered in wounds that have been healed by healing scrolls. The dude admits that Seo-woon is stronger than him, but believes he is going to be as strong as Seo-woon once he gets to kill him. He unleashes a powerful flame orb that explodes on contact. The moment the orb touches Seo-woon, it releases a massive explosion. And before the player can even see the aftermath, he is already boasting about how good the orb is. Suddenly, the smoke clears off, and Seo-woon's voice cuts through the smoke, mocking the dude for relying on items to try to beat him. It turns out that Seo-woon's magic resistance is still too high to be damaged by the orb. The player freezes in fear as he doesn't want to believe that Seo-woon just tanked a Circle 3 spell. Before he can continue yapping, Seo-woon smashes his head into the tree. To make him suffer because of what he did to the kid, Seo-woon pushes his fingers into his head to crush his head against the tree. The kid panics when he sees this, holding his head in fear because he believes that Seo-woon is coming for him next. However, Seo-woon speaks calmly to him, asking him for his name. The kid replies that his name is Lyle, and Seo-woon is devastated that a kid of his age ended up in the game. Seo-woon asks him if this is his first game, and he says yes, revealing that he was just on his way home when he was suddenly warped into the game. Seo-woon tells Lyle that there is no way he is leaving him the way he found him, so he decides to lend him a hand. Seo-woon brings out a jerky bag from his storage space and also gives the boy a Circle 4 stone. Seo-woon tells the boy that he is already a Circle 4 mage, so he doesn't need it. He lets him know that the item should be enough for him, since it doesn't appear that there are many strong players left. As he walks away, Seo-woon tells Lyle that he might find himself getting a good opportunity as long as he survives. Tears of joy run down Lyle's face as he bows to Seo-woon, thanking him for the help. Deep down, Seo-woon knows that he wasn't that different from Lyle 2 months ago when he met Do-chun. Seo-woon knows he would have been eliminated early if not for the old man. Just then, he gets a notification telling him that a duo of Hayami Ren and Drift has given up on the boss monster. The moment he sees the name, he realizes that Ren is the high schooler he saw in the lobby. Since they just finished fighting, Seo-woon is convinced that they would be exhausted, so it is best that he ambushes them to finish them off before they recover. Seo-woon follows the map to where the boss monster is, but to his surprise, the boss monster has been defeated. However, Ren and his duo aren't the only ones there. Other players are on the scene, and they are arguing about whatever agreement they made concerning fighting in the boss area. One of the warriors says this was way before the boss was defeated, but Drift stole the final hit on the boss. Drift is pissed at how noisy they are and suggests that they all come at him at once. Ren, who is wearing a hood, also berates the rest of the team, telling them that they have no ounce of loyalty in them. A lady dressed in a native outfit steps out, telling Ren not to mock those who fought alongside him until the end. She says the main thing that matters is the rewards that they get for taking down the boss monster. She wants to know if Ren is willing to split the rewards, but Ren argues that there are not many rewards to go around, so there won't be any splitting. Since it has come to this, the lady declares war on them, saying she's going to kill them all to get the rewards. Seo-woon is seeing all of these from where he is hiding, and wishes that he had popcorn in his hand so he can enjoy the good show that is about to unfold in front of him. Suddenly, Ren screams out something weird saying someone should come out. Seo-woon wonders what he is talking about until the dude mentions his name, saying he should come out because he is pretty sure that he can hear him. Ren adds that hiding is quite pointless in this situation, and Seo-woon cannot believe just how disgusting the dude is. Ren reaches into his storage space saying Seo-woon had promised to help them if they handed over the boss's heart. Ren says he is going to give the heart to the dudes who want it if he doesn't show himself immediately. Seo-woon doesn't even make a move from where he is because he knows that the dude is only using his name as a bluff to push back the rest of the players. Ren then brings out a glowing bag, which he claims is the ant's heart. Seo-woon figures out that Ren is playing the other players by using his name, since all of them must have seen his name on the kill feed, and he is just milking his identity. Ren places the bag on the ground, saying Seo-woon is free to kill the players however he likes. The other players are shocked to see Ren dropping something so valuable on the ground, but the lady with the native dress urges her comrades not to panic because they are going to split the rewards evenly. Before they know it, Drift and Ren run away, and the players decide to check out what is inside the bag first. An argument breaks out among the bunch, but the lady is the first to make a move to go after Ren. Since the group is totally disorganized, Seo-woon decides to have a bit of fun with them too. As Ren and Drift run through the woods, Drift asks Ren how long he plans to run because running isn't exactly his forte. He lets Ren know that his body is already itching for a fight, and Ren decides to take things seriously too. It turns out that the lady and some other players are already onto them, and Ren tells Drift that once he gives the signal, they are going to embark on the counterattack formation that they planned. Drift is happy to hear this because he has been waiting for so long. Moments later, Ren makes his way to the top of a tree branch, and he stops there. Ren tells Drift that he is going to leave Drift to handle the annoying lady while he handles the rest of the bunch. Ren unleashes a powerful lightning magic aimed at the rest of the crew. Those who get hit scream out in pain, and even the lady is shocked that Ren was able to take down so many people with one spell. She is hiding behind a tree when Drift comes for her, swinging his weapon at her. However, she blocks the attack with an ice defense. She leaps into the air to avoid another attack, and Drift soon notices that his hammer is being restricted by frost. Drift berates the lady for using such an annoying technique on him. Drift manages to break free, and he leaps toward the lady, but the lady uses a more advanced ice spell that shatters his fingers. Realizing that the lady is about to finish Drift, Ren unleashes a lightning attack on her, but the lady redirects the electricity into the ground, showing just how strong she is. The lady boasts about this, revealing that by coating her body with inner energy to temporarily reduce damage and controlling the flow of chi, she can redirect the electricity into the ground. Even though it requires advanced inner energy control, it means nothing to her, since she is quite capable. Meanwhile, as they yap, Drift is groaning in pain. The lady assures Ren that she will be the one to kill him because she's seen through his skills already. She leaps toward Ren, and Ren unleashes another lightning attack. The lady confidently tells him that this won't work as she redirects the electricity into a tree. Ren freaks out because he has never seen someone nullify magic the way she is. Since she is already getting close, Ren figures out that they would have to settle everything via close combat. He reaches into his storage space and whips out a sword, which he swings at the lady. She manages to block the attack, but she is overwhelmed with the shock that a mage can also use martial arts. Ren pushes her away, and just then she gets a notification that her ally has been killed by Seo-woon. This leaves her open, giving Ren the chance to push a sword into her. She leaps backward in pain, clutching her chest, and Ren tells her to die in peace because she's reached the end of the road already. Just then, she starts talking about how her ally was defeated by Seo-woon, but before she can even finish the statement, an arrow flies through her head, killing her on the spot. The force from the arrow is so much that it still pierces through Drift's arm armor, leaving Ren and his partner in shock. Seo-woon finally emerges from where he is, telling Ren that he has quite some nerve to have used his name the way he did. Ren freaks out when he realizes that they are standing in front of the infamous Seo-woon, and Seo-woon asks him if he thinks calling him out won't bring consequences along. Seo-woon aims his bow at Ren, telling him to hand over the ant's heart. Ren claims he has given it to the group earlier as a decoy, but before he can finish his lie, Seo-woon fires an arrow that tears through the side of his face. Seo-woon tells Ren not to try to mess with him because he knew that what he did was just to enchant an empty bag. Seo-woon then tells him that he doesn't even have the time to argue because he would just kill Ren and his partner to confirm if they have the ant's heart. Drift overestimates himself and lunges at Seo-woon, telling him not to underestimate a warrior of Thistle. He mocks Seo-woon, saying he is just a bow user, so he is nothing compared to someone like him. However, Seo-woon shocks him by easily dodging his strike before launching a counterattack that tears his head off from his neck. Seo-woon cannot believe how weak the dude is, even though he is busy talking big. Ren panics when he sees this, and he stutters as he asks Seo-woon how many times he's been invited to the game. Seo-woon keeps his bow aimed at Ren as he reveals that this is his second time. The moment Ren hears this, he immediately assumes that Seo-woon is a noob, and he yells at him, telling him to stop getting cocky because it is just his second time. He unleashes a powerful lightning attack, but Seo-woon tears through his head with an arrow before his attack can even dream of hitting. With this, Seo-woon takes out Ren and his partner. Surprisingly, Seo-woon was able to obtain more inner energy from Ren's remains than Drift. Seo-woon had assumed that Ren was just a mage, but with the look of things, it appears that he has some martial arts training too. While looking through the chest, Seo-woon believes that the chances of him running into someone from his world again are quite slim. Suddenly, he spots something spectacular in Ren's chest, and this is a golden weapon box. This is a rare item that only drops from specific monsters, and opening it grants a random special weapon. Seo-woon is completely blown away by this, and he considers it a super rare drop. Seo-woon wastes no time opening it, and as the box shines bright, Seo-woon's hope to get something good shoots through the roof. However, his hope crashes down when he realizes that he obtained a weapon called Selfish Hamet. In his head, he was expecting a more decent weapon like a sword or a golden bow, but instead, he got a dud. Seo-woon concludes that it is not his lucky day, and he is about to stash the item into the subspace when it suddenly speaks. The round ball then transforms into its true form, and it turns out that it is a weapon spirit, Elsius Hamet. Seo-woon doesn't look all that impressed, and he asks Hamet if he is going to fight in his stead. However, Hamet clears the misconception, revealing that he is a weapon that can transform into whatever form Seo-woon desires. Deep down, Hamet is surprised that Seo-woon is not going crazy because these people would normally scream or cry in joy when they obtain him. Hamet asks Seo-woon what kind of weapon he uses, promising to surpass it to become the ultimate weapon for him. Seo-woon then replies that he doesn't really use weapons, and Hamet concludes that Seo-woon is a bare-handed fighter. Since this is the case, Hamet transforms into a gauntlet that wraps around Seo-woon's hands, and he promises that it can shatter anything. However, Seo-woon says he is not cool with it because it is too heavy and would get in the way when he is drawing his bow. Since Seo-woon is not cool with this, Hamet adjusts and changes into a flexible, dark gauntlet that prioritizes movement. Even with this, Seo-woon is not satisfied, and Hamet lets out his frustration, asking his master why he is so picky. Seo-woon then concludes that the best place for Hamet is inside the subspace, but Hamet argues that he is not something that would be handled so carelessly. He tells Seo-woon to tell him what kind of weapon he wants. Seo-woon takes a minute to think about it, and he reveals that he wants something extremely durable, like a piece of cloth that he can use however he wants. Hamet cannot believe that Seo-woon is telling him to become a mere rag, and Seo-woon suggests that he go back into the subspace if he has a problem with this. Hamet has no choice but to do what Seo-woon wants, and he transforms into a sleeve. Surprisingly, Seo-woon is happy with this, but Hamet thinks he deserves better. Seo-woon then wraps the sleeve over his hand and he urges Hamet to be a good boy so that they can get along. Hamet has no choice but to maintain this form as long as it is what Seo-woon wants. Hamet then reveals that this is not the only ability he has, and Seo-woon is surprised that there is more. A roulette is displayed in front of Seo-woon, and Hamet tells him that he can spin the roulette once a day and use one spell regardless of the circle. Hamet says some of the spells can completely turn the tide of battle, like the revive spell. Seo-woon is blown away when he hears that there is a spell that allows one to come back to life even if they die, but Hamet tells him that he has to pull it on the wheel first. Seo-woon asks if he can spin it right away, and Hamet says yes. However, Hamet tells Seo-woon that he is getting a bad feeling. He can sense that someone is targeting Seo-woon with an enormous killing intent. Seo-woon wonders if some of the survivors had tracked him down. Seo-woon says he can't feel any chi, and he asks Hamet if he knows the direction that it is coming from. Hamet says he can't tell the exact direction, but his instincts are never wrong. Seo-woon then pulls out the airboard that he got after he defeated the mage earlier. Apparently the airboard is a transportation item used by high-level mages and witches, but Hamet yells at him, telling him that it is not the time for him to start chatting. Seo-woon then thinks to himself that it would be better if he lowers his guard to draw out whoever is stalking him. Hamet then comments on this, saying it makes sense, but the risk is too high. Seo-woon is shocked to find out that Hamet can read his thoughts, and Hamet lets him know that they are bound together, so their consciousness is shared. Just as Seo-woon is about to get on the airboard, a double attack of arrows and fireballs hits him. He screams out in pain as he crashes to the ground, and just then, the archer steps out of hiding. His partner, the mage, also appears from the opposite side, and she quickly mentions something important, telling the archer that the kill feed isn't showing up. The mage tells the archer that Seo-woon must have survived the attack, so he should finish off quickly. The archer suggests that the mage deploy magic detection just in case Seo-woon's allies are hiding nearby. The archer then moves closer to Seo-woon to fire a shot into his head. However, Seo-woon suddenly raises his head and he grabs the arrow with his hands. The archer freaks out when he sees this, and Seo-woon puts more fear in him as he crushes the arrows with his hands. Seo-woon is forced to commend Hamet, saying he is pretty durable. The archer leaps backward while telling his partner to use all of her magic on Seo-woon, but Seo-woon lunges toward the dude as he pulls out the chainsword from his storage space. Before the archer knows what is happening, the chainsword has cut through his neck already. As he loses his life, he can only wonder if Seo-woon fired an arrow from a distance. His partner, the mage, sees this, and she immediately gets on her broom to dip out of there. Seo-woon is left in awe because this is the first time he's seen someone escape on a broom. Hamet tells him that this is what high-level witches usually do, and Hamet asks if he is not going to chase her down. Seo-woon says he has no interest in going after her because she doesn't even look strong. After he is done looting, Seo-woon concludes that the game is going to end in 2 days because of the low number of players that are left. However, he soon regrets his assumption because the game ran till day 20, and the number of players didn't even reduce by 1. After staying in a tree and almost dying of boredom, Seo-woon whips out the airboard and Hamet asks him if he is going for a patrol again. Seo-woon replies that he has no choice. Since the players are hiding, he has to go find them himself. He remembers that he was able to hunt up until day 5, but after that, finding a single player turned into an impossible mission. He has basically spent the last 10 days actively scouring the area for anyone still in hiding. Seo-woon asks Hamet if he can feel anything because tracking down the players is quite exhausting. Hamet replies that he can't sense anything, and everything remains quiet just like the day before. Seo-woon mocks him, saying he was happy because he thought he got a good radar, but it turns out that Hamet is useless. In Hamet's defense, he lets Seo-woon know that unless the enemy gives off bloodlust, there is nothing he can do. Even though the map area had shrunk to a sixth of its original size, there were still plenty of places to hide. Hamet then tells Seo-woon to stop searching desperately because the players will come out eventually. Seo-woon then tells Hamet to think about the whole situation. He mentions that the kill feed is already filled with his name, and if it ends up turning into an 11 versus 1, he is done for. Seo-woon lets Hamet know that he has to reduce the number of survivors to prevent this. Upon hearing this, Hamet tells Seo-woon that instead of wasting time, he should hunt down the Black Argon. Seo-woon is confused, and he asks Hamet what the Black Argon is. Hamet reveals that it is the buff monster in the area, and Seo-woon freaks out when he hears what Hamet is suggesting for him. Seo-woon tells him that there is no way he is taking down the giant snake on his own, but Hamet urges him to try it out, saying there is no way he is going to lose to the snake. Seo-woon is forced to ask Hamet again if he thinks he can actually beat the snake, and Hamet assures him that he can. Moments later, the players are seen fighting the giant snake, and it appears that they have almost taken it down after so much effort. Suddenly, they sense Seo-woon's presence coming in their direction, and the players start panicking. They aim to finish off the snake before Seo-woon catches them there. Hamet tells Seo-woon that the player's mana detection has already picked up on him, and Seo-woon says he is aware of this. Seo-woon leaps into range, saying he is pretty sure that they are panicking now that they know he is in the area. The moment he gets there, Seo-woon realizes that all the remaining players are on the scene. Seo-woon wonders why he is always the one getting ganged up on, and he reaches into his storage space to whip out his bow. One of the players is busy cutting up the snake when Seo-woon fires a lightning arrow into his back, shocking him so much that it leaves him open for the snake to finish him off. The players freak out because they know Seo-woon is the one attacking them, but they can't figure out where the arrow came from just yet. One of them tells the group that they have to forget about the hunt first because if this continues, they are going to get wiped out. Just then, Seo-woon sees an arrow coming his way, forcing him to change position. The dude then tells their mages to cast detection magic and prioritize killing Seo-woon instead. Seo-woon realizes that they have a sharp-minded person among them and decides that he has to end things quickly. He draws his bow with all of his strength, while pouring all his energy into it. He fires the arrow at the snake, hitting it on the head, and the snake screams out in agony as the lightning runs through its body, depleting the rest of its tiny HP. The players watch in shock as the monster is defeated, and they start asking which of the teams got the buff. Just then, they get the information that Seo-woon was the one who defeated the snake, and his stats are going to increase by 30% for 10 days. Instead of backing off, the players decide to attack Seo-woon all at once with the belief that they can overwhelm him, since it is just a 30% boost. Seo-woon leaps down from the treetop to engage the group. A fierce battle breaks out between the two groups, and Seo-woon's first attack gets repelled, so he figures out that he has to take care of their barrier first. He punches one of the mages, killing him on the spot, and with this, Seo-woon marks his first kill among the group. With the team swarming him, Seo-woon takes off his cloak since it is pretty useless. He notices that the team is wary and they don't want to make a move until they have gauged his true strength. Seo-woon concludes that the mage who has lost his barrier will be his first prey. Without wasting time, Seowon leaps into the air, lunging toward the mage, and the moment the warrior notices this, he screams at the others, telling them to protect the mage at all costs. The others yell back at him, telling him that they are only listening to him because they are fighting to take down a common enemy. Seowon is surprised to see that the group is actually teaming up on him, which is out of character for them. Before he can get to the mage, they have formed a wall around him to block his attack. However, this is not enough as Seowon breaks through their defense with his power. He breaks the warrior's shield, but before he can relax, the martial artist swings his sword at him from behind. Seowon almost gets hit because the weapon is a flexible sword, which is able to stretch. Since it has come to this, Seowon figures out that a counter will work best and he manages to push the dude backward. However, he is surprised to see just how well the team is working together. Seowon soon finds himself trapped between the two deadly warriors, and when he realizes that he is about to be cut down, Seowon tells Hamit to change form to what he is currently thinking. Hamit follows through and changes into a shield to block the majority of the attack, but his face still gets cut. Nonetheless, this gives Seowon the chance to punch the big guy in the face to shatter his head, killing him on the spot. With this, Seowon realizes that he has just 8 people left, but one of the mages suddenly tells Seowon that they are prepared to take him down since they have seen how notorious he can be. In fact, they have developed a countermeasure just for him, and the blonde head mage tells Seowon that she has been waiting for this exact moment. Just then, she hits Seowon with a spell, and it is after he gets hit that he realizes that he is in trouble. It turns out that it is a debuff spell that reduces stats by 40% for 30 minutes. Seowon starts regretting his decision not to have dealt with the woman first. Now that Seowon is suffering from a debuff, the players figure out that it is time to overwhelm him because he is even weaker than before. Seowon is also not going to sit around and let the players just kill him for fun. Seowon fights back hard, kicking the first dude in the chest. The dude is able to block the attack, and by doing this, he realizes that the mage's debuff spell is working. It provides even more encouragement for the group to go after Seowon, and Seowon tries to escape by leaping into the air. However, he gets struck by a mega flame attack that knocks him to the ground. Seowon realizes that he is only able to hold out because the 30% buff he got is offsetting the 40% buff that the mage placed on him. He realizes that the mega flame attack that just hit him would have killed him instantly if he hadn't gotten the 30% buff from the snake monster. Seowon realizes that the way forward is to kill the witch and break the debuff spell. The players commend Seowon for not dying to the mega attack that they used on him, but they are not about to stop, since they have decided to switch to close combat. Seowon realizes that the dude who is in charge is a pain, and he should have just killed him using a surprise attack. Just then, he notices that Lyle has just been standing there, doing nothing. One of the mages then launches a powerful attack that puts Seowon on his back. He realizes that he is being choked out to prevent him from running around. Just when he thinks it is over, a stone attack appears from underneath, slapping him so hard to the ground. The close combat warriors immediately descend on him, ready to finish the job. At that same moment, Lyle takes out the mage who cast the debuff spell on Seowon, killing her with a wind attack. The moment this happens, her debuff magic wears off, freeing Seowon from her curse, and Seowon is able to dodge the incoming attack. He punches the leader of the group in the chest, putting a big hole in him. The dude is left in shock since Seowon shouldn't have been able to do this. Seowon sits up and realizes that it was Lyle who helped him. Knowing that he is about to die, Lyle tells Seowon to win the game. One of the players then stabbed Lyle in the back, killing him on the spot. The moment Seowon witnessed Lyle's death, he was overtaken by a violent anger. All he gave Lyle were a few items, but he never thought he would care what happened to the boy. Seowon starts running through the players with insane anger because they had the guts to kill a child without hesitation. A lot of questions ran through his mind, overwhelming him with anger, and before he knew it, he had killed everybody on the field. He came back to his senses only when he was hit with the congratulatory message for winning the game. Seowon is shocked that he actually emerged as the winner of the game, but suddenly it dawns on him that there is so much chi in the area that he can absorb. He tries to absorb the chi and even loot the chests, but the game stops him, telling him that the game has ended. He is informed that he gained 240 coins and he achieved the most kills. In addition, as a bonus, an additional 100 coins have been awarded. Because he reached the top 5 twice in a row, he has been given an additional 15 coins. Seowon is blown away when he realizes that he has been given 355 coins because in the first game, he only managed to earn 140 coins. Hamit starts glazing himself, saying it was thanks to him that Seowon won. Seowon admits that he was useful but lets him know that he was kind of mid. Apparently, Hamit costs 100 coins to purchase, and Hamit urges Seowon to buy him. However, Seo-woon lets him know that he has no interest in paying 100 coins for him because he is overpriced. Hamit disagrees, saying being able to purchase a magnificent being like him for 100 coins is a steal. Seo-woon is not convinced, and he says there are other things that are more useful, like the Cloak of Hiding, which costs 70 coins. In fact, he is thinking of trying out the golden weapon box since it is on the list. Just then, the system reminds him that he can spin the roulette, since he is part of the top 5 players. However, as the winner, he gets to spin the roulette 3 times. Seo-woon hopes that he gets something good on the first attempt, and Hamit hopes that Seo-woon pulls him instead. Just like the first time, Seo-woon pulls Escrow's necklace, but Seo-woon doesn't cry too much about it, since it is not entirely a loss. Seo-woon then starts the second spin, and Hamit is the happiest being on the planet as Seo-woon pulls him on the second draw. Hamit celebrates this like a mad person, since he won't have to go back inside the annoying box again. Seo-woon, on the other hand, is not really happy, since he was hoping to get the weapon box instead. However, he doesn't see it as a bad deal, since he gets to save 100 coins. On the third spin, Seo-woon gets a fragmented secret tome, which is priced at 60 coins. Seo-woon is surprised that it is quite expensive, but he wonders how many more of the items he has to get until he gets them all. After going through everything thoroughly, Seo-woon decides to buy a 4-circle stone, an Iceland spellbook, a vital essence pill, Tokar's ring, and the Cloak of Hiding. In the end, he still has 49 coins left, which he believes would come in handy in the next game. After he is done with his selection, the system wishes him luck in the next game, and he is transported back to reality. Seo-woon returns to the park where he vanished from, and to his horror, there are 2 hikers in sight. The 2 are immediately disgusted once they see how bloodied he is. To try to calm them down, Seo-woon lies that it is fake blood because they are shooting a movie in the area. Deep down, Seo-woon doesn't want this to happen every freaking time because it is going to be so annoying. Seo-woon then returns home, but even though it is just his second game, he can already see how much stronger he has become. Seo-woon takes off his bloodied jersey and dumps it in the trash, mourning it because it was his favorite jersey. Without wasting time, Seo-woon sits in the lotus position and he whips out the 4-circle stone. 6 hours later, he had used the 4-circle stone and the red cloud pill. Just like before, his room heats up as if it were a boiling room. Seo-woon gets on his feet, totally refreshed and recharged. He feels like his mana and base stats have increased too, but he decides to check them first before getting something to eat. He opens his information, and he is surprised to see just how much his inner energy and mana have increased. He can't believe that he has grown this much in just 2 games, and he can't wait to see how much he will grow in the next games. He is thinking about getting something to eat when Hamit yells at him, asking him how long he plans to ignore him. Seo-woon then reaches into the storage space to bring him out, while urging him to talk quietly. Hamit asks Seo-woon why he is keeping him in the storage space, and Seo-woon tells him that he might have a great ability, but he is quite noisy. Hamit tells Seo-woon that there is nothing noisy about him because weapons like him are rare. Seo-woon ignores him and then calls the low-budget Siri on his phone to help him find nearby Chinese restaurants. Hamit is shocked when he hears Seo-woon's phone speak back to him, and Seo-woon lets him know that in his world, there is no shortage of tools like Hamit that can speak. Seo-woon crushes Hamit's ego, telling him that he is not a big deal in his world. Hamit argues that he is not special just because he can talk, but being an amazing weapon is what makes him special. Seo-woon continues talking casually, saying he can't even tell Hamit to transform into a longsword because in this world, one needs a permit for that. This leaves Seo-woon wondering what it is he should do with Hamit. Hamit reminds Seo-woon that he can just transform into a sleeve to wrap around his hands just like in the game, but Seo-woon disagrees with this, saying people would believe that he is weird if he walks around with a cloth wrapped around his hand. Hamit transforms into a robe and asks Seo-woon what he thinks of this, but Seo-woon tells him that this is even worse. Seo-woon is about to throw him in the subspace when he transforms into a necklace. Seo-woon then tells him that he can work with the necklace, and Hamit heaves a sigh of relief. In addition, the necklace comes with a killing intent detector, and just then, Seo-woon's order arrives at the door. Moments later, Seo-woon is done consuming the food. Seo-woon is glad that he finally got to eat something good because he's been eating nothing but dried meat for ages. Hamit asks him if the food is good, but Seo-woon reminds him that he can't eat, so he has no reason why he should be asking. Hamit then says he is only curious about a heartless master like him. Seo-woon then gets up, saying he has to go out. Hamit asks him where he is going, and Seo-woon reminds him that he is coming with him, so he sees no point in answering this. Seo-woon then makes his way to the internet cafe where he used to game. The attendant is surprised to see him after a long while, and he asks him if something happened to him. Seo-woon claims he's been busy getting ready for school and only decided to pop in to take a break. The attendant tells him that they are holding a Loyal Ground tournament next week and wants to know if he is interested in joining in. Seowon replies that he has found another interesting game, so he's dropped loyal ground. As Seowon sits down in front of the system, Hamid asks him what LOG is, and Seowon tells him that it is a low-budget version of Cloyd Survival. Seowon knows that there is no way LOG can satisfy him again after he's had a taste of Cloyd Survival. The reason he came to the internet cafe is that he is trying to see if he can match up with Ren, the high schooler he found in the game. He is pretty sure that there are other players in the real world, and there are going to be attention seekers too. With what he's found out, it appears that the players interact via the dark web, and this is where he wants to surf. While going through the adult site link, he finds the survivor's message board, which catches his attention. The moment he clicks the icon, he is slapped with a big question, asking him if he is a survivor. With sweat running down his face, he clicks the yes option, while wondering what he had gotten himself into. Seowon is surprised because the site design even resembles the game's interface. This tells him that whoever built the site is definitely a Cloyd Survival veteran. A chat box then appears on the screen, telling Seowon to get lost if he is there to just mess around. Seowon figures out that it is a bot that is trying to kick out kids or impersonators. He wonders if it needs a secret code or a specific pattern for the answers. Seowon asks the bot if it knows the password, but the next reply he gets is for him to get lost, while the bot also tells him that it is aware of his location. The bot tells Seowon that he shouldn't even be there since he can't protect himself while using the dark web. Seowon is blown away at how hackers do their thing, and the chatbot tells him to close the PC. However, Seowon doesn't do this, and the chatbot asks him if he is not scared. Seowon replies that he is not because he is already impatient that he doesn't have access yet. The chatbot then tells Seowon to prove that he is a survivor. Seowon wonders how he is supposed to prove this, and just then, an image appears on the screen. It is a scattered puzzle, and when Seowon sees it, he realizes that it is the statue from inside the game. Seowon cannot believe that this is all he had to do, and he is pissed that they didn't keep the whole thing simple from the start. Once he is done with the puzzle, the site informs him that the authentication is successful, and he is welcome to the site. The chat asks him how many runs he's had in the game, but Seowon doesn't answer this, saying it is a bit personal. The chat agrees with him, then tells him to log in with the ID that was sent to him, promising that their top-class hackers will protect him 24/7. Seowon then snaps the ID and password so he can use them next time. Once he's logged in on the site, Seowon starts surfing, looking at where he should start from. He decides to check out the beginner's tip first. From the first tip, he learns that governments around the world are trying desperately to bring ability users under control, and under no circumstances should a player ever reveal their abilities in public. For the second tip, Seowon is informed that he is not the only player, as the numbers are increasing by the day, so he should not get carried away, thinking he is special. Also, there are government-backed private organizations that are hunting down beginners. It turns out that they are ready to use whatever means necessary to prevent chaos caused by ability users. Seowon freaks out when he sees this because it is basically an active threat. Furthermore, Seowon is informed that if he wants to sell items obtained from the game, there are broker sites and wealthy buyers from all over the world on the dark web who are willing to purchase directly. He can also visit these sites to convert his items into cash. Seowon realizes that by doing this, he might find himself earning a stable income in no time. Seowon decides to check out the market site and see the worth of the items he got. As he goes through the forum, he realizes that there are a ton of items he hasn't even seen before. There is a particular item, the Witch's Elixir, which is going for 20 million won, and the buyer has a deadline on it. Seowon thinks he's seen it all until he runs into an item that is bidding for 100 million won. It is the failed Ointment Court Empire exclusive that guarantees hair growth on applied areas. Seowon decides to keep this in mind just in case. As he goes through the forum, he finally understands why they are obsessed with run counts. There are also bodyguard requests on the forum where players with more than 10 runs earn millions monthly, and those with over 30 runs can name their own price. Basically, more run count means higher status. After browsing for a while, he suddenly stumbled upon an article talking about a 13th run hybrid mage who was beaten by a second run player. He checks the author and realizes that it was produced by someone named the High School Mage. Those who are reading the article don't want to believe this, and they start saying trash about Seowon. Seowon then decides to chat the guy up since it appears that he is active on the forum. The dude responds and asks Seowon if it is true that it was the second run, and he says yes. Seowon is forced to ask him if it is that big a deal that he is on the second run. Ren replies that it is a big deal, since it is not normal for a player to be overpowered like him just after 2 runs. Ren says he actually thought Seowon was a fixed player, and Seowon asks him what a fixed player is. The moment Seowon asks this question, Ren confirms that Seowon is truly a noob in the game. He explains that everyone starts as a free player, but once they meet certain conditions, they can rank up to become a fixed player. Apparently, the tutorial match only happens once for free players, but most people don't even notice it. In fact, it took Ren until his 13th run to notice. Ren then asks Seo-woon if he can get his contact info, assuring Seo-woon that there is a lot he can teach him, since he is still a beginner. Seo-woon is taken aback, wondering if the dude is looking for a way to settle the score one-on-one in real life. Seo-woon tells Ren that he just can't trust him because he asked for it, and Ren assures Seo-woon that he is never going to regret it because he is going to rank up as a fixed player soon, which means he's going to need a fixed team nonetheless. Seo-woon is still confused about what the fixed team means, and Ren suggests that they meet up instead. Seo-woon suggests a meeting point, and Ren promises to be there in an hour. As he leaves the cafe, Seo-woon is left wondering if meeting Ren is a good idea. An hour later, Seo-woon arrives at the meeting location, and moments later, a dude on a bike shows up. His bike is so loud that everyone on the scene believes that he is trying to show off. No one knows who he is, since he has a helmet covering his head. Seo-woon sees this, and he is impressed by the dude's guts to ride a bike into a crowded street. He believes that the dude is some rich kid, and suddenly the dude on the bike turns to look at him. Seo-woon freezes up in shock, wondering if he had stared at the dude too much. Just then, the dude takes off his helmet to reveal that he is Ren, and he tells Seo-woon that he is the high school mage that he is there to meet. Seo-woon is taken aback since it is his first time meeting someone he killed in-game. However, this doesn't take away the fact that the dude has a punchable face. The two then settle down in a cafe, and Seo-woon asks Ren why he called him out to meet physically. Ren goes straight to the point, telling Seo-woon that he would like to join his team. Seo-woon reminds Ren that he already said this when they were chatting, but he doesn't know exactly what it means. Ren continues talking, reminding Seo-woon that they are both free players. Seeing how loud he is, Seo-woon urges him to keep his voice down before someone hears them. However, Ren tells him that it is fine thanks to the pendant he is wearing. Apparently, no one aside from them can hear the conversation. Seo-woon is blown away and he asks Ren if he brought the item from the game, but Ren reveals that it was crafted in the real world by a player who specialized as an alchemist. It then dawns on Ren again that Seo-woon is truly a noob in the game. Ren then asks Seo-woon about his results, and Seo-woon reveals that he took second on his first run, but first place on his second run. Ren is blown away by this, revealing that he's only ever heard of consecutive top placements on the forums, and Seo-woon claims that he was just lucky. Ren mentions that he's only made it to the top 5 once, and he's almost retired several times. Seo-woon asks him what he means by retired, and Ren explains that it is basically elimination. If a player fails to make the cut, they can never log into the game again. Ren then suggests that they put this aside first, as he is more interested in the two of them forming a team. Seo-woon asks him if one cannot form a team unless they are a fixed player, and Ren says one can form a fixed party of up to 8 people. Apparently, the group will be able to join the same game regardless of where each individual lives. Seo-woon asks him if what he is saying is that he wants to play with him, and Ren confirms this. After a long conversation, the two decide to call it a day. On his way back home, Hamit reminds Seo-woon that Ren used to be his enemy, but it is weird that he is willing to team up with him. Seo-woon tells Hamit that it is just a game and he doesn't hold grudges. In addition, he believes that it is better to have teammates who follow orders. Hamit continues saying why it might be the wrong decision, but Seo-woon maintains that everything is a risk. Suddenly, Hamit senses killing intent aimed at Seo-woon, and he lets him know that there are 3 assailants. He immediately asks if he should transform into a weapon to get the job done pretty fast. However, Seo-woon doesn't think there is any need for this, since the trio is so trash that they can't even hide their own presence. Seo-woon is able to deduce where the trio is hiding individually. Once he figures out where they are hiding, Seo-woon confidently tells them to come out of their hiding places. Since he's onto them, the trio walks out boastfully, telling Seo-woon to stop talking big because he doesn't know what they are capable of. Seo-woon then asks the group to state their business. The bald-headed dude cannot believe just how proud Seo-woon is, and he tells him to cooperate if he doesn't want to get hurt. Hearing how they speak and behave, Seo-woon immediately figures out that they are the beginner hunters from the forum who like to prey on rookies. Hamid asks again if he should transform into a weapon, but Seo-woon tells him that there is no need for this, saying it is not worth the effort. Seo-woon stands firm, unleashing an overwhelming aura that puts fear in their bodies. Seo-woon then tells the group that he is willing to let them go if they turn back immediately. The leader of the group tries to get Seo-woon to lower his guard, telling him that he is classified as a terrorist by the government, while claiming that they are working for the state. He urges Seo-woon to cooperate or fall under the category of being a terrorist. He tells Seo-woon that just by showing off his abilities in a residential area, he has committed a crime. Seo-woon then assures the group that if they leave him be, he is not going to bother with them, and even if they want his cooperation, they should bring a warrant because he is not stupid enough to follow people who don't have official authority. One of them decides to act rashly by jumping towards Seowoon from behind, and Seowoon immediately reacts to this. He turns around so fast that he throws a punch at his face, but holds back at the last second just to show him that he can actually punch him down if he wants to. Seowoon reminds them that they are the ones who drew their weapons first. The leader of the group realizes that they have fallen into Seowoon's trap, and he scolds his colleague for acting rashly. Seowoon then tells the dude that he finds it insulting that he actually believes that the group can restrain him. Seowoon asks them if he looks like a beginner to them. Suddenly, they see Seowoon clones surrounding them, and this is when the trio realizes that things are more serious than they thought. The information they heard was that Seowoon was a solo player and not any information about him having allies. Seowoon then tells them never to get involved with him again, assuring them that if they leave him alone, he is also going to stay away from them. Before leaving, Seowoon tells them that they should properly gauge their opponent's strength next time. One of the men asks the leader if they should track Seowoon down, but the leader tells them not to be stupid and provokes Seowoon unnecessarily. The dude believes that it is better to leave Seowoon alone in the meantime. Hamet, on the other hand, also asks Seowoon if it would not be better to just kill the group to avoid trouble in the future, but Seowoon tells him that this is basically a crime in his world. After he gets home, Seowoon starts to wonder if it is time for him to move. He is also confused because he doesn't even know how they were able to pick up his trail. He wants to believe that they did so because he sold the necklace at the pawn shop. He then decides that he is just going to show the group who they are dealing with if they ever come after him again. However, after his meeting with Ren, Seowoon has been able to confirm that for someone who is on his second run, he is insanely strong. In fact, the coins he's earned surpassed even those of veterans who are on their 20th or 30th run. Seowoon then vows to use the coins to get stronger so he can stay at the top. Seowoon figures out that Cloyd's survival and reality aren't that different. Seowoon ends up meditating and cultivating throughout the night, and only stops when he realizes that it was already morning. However, he's only gathered a small amount of inner energy, and this tells him that training in the real world is too inefficient. He then decides to use Ren's method, which he had suggested. When Seowoon met with Ren in the cafe the night before, Ren admitted that they knew nothing about each other. He suggests that to build trust, they should train together until the next game. Seowoon asks him what he means by this, and he reveals that it is quite obvious that one can refine their in-game skills through practice. However, they can't train in public places, which is why fixed teams go as far as renting private islands just to train. Before forming a fixed team, Ren says they have to deepen their bond and trust through training, which is basically killing two birds with one stone. Ren admits that Seowoon defeated him badly, but Ren assures Seowoon that he is a decent player even though he is not as strong as him. In the end, the two exchanged contact info, and Seowoon didn't even expect that he would be reaching out to Ren that soon. However, he has no choice, since Ren is the only one around who knows much about the game. Seowoon then puts a call through to Ren, telling him that the government lapdogs showed up the night before. Ren is surprised that it is only Seowoon's second run, but he already has hunters on him. Seowoon asks him if this isn't the normal thing, and Ren says it is not. He asks Seowoon if he's done anything unusual. Seowoon reveals that he sold Escrow's necklace at a pawn shop, and Ren admits that it is a good deal for money, saying he brings one back on every run. Seowoon asks him how he deals with it so that it doesn't get traced back to him, and Ren reveals that he melts it and sells it. Seowoon is surprised to hear this, and he realizes that Ren has some shady tricks up his sleeve. Ren assures Seowoon that he can help him lay low if that is what he wants. Ren mentions that he is good at avoiding tracking and using proxy accounts. Basically, he was a well-known hacker on the dark web before he was invited to Cloyd's survival. Seowoon is shocked to hear this, and it just shows how crazy Ren is in the dark world. Seowoon then asks him when they can start training, and Ren suggests that they start the next day. The next day, Seowoon waits at the stop where Ren told him to wait. Ren arrives with his bike and tells Seowoon to hop on so that they can get supplies at the supermarket near the training grounds. Seowoon is curious to know where the training ground is, and Ren says it is going to take them about 1 hour. Seowoon asks where the location is, and Ren reveals that he bought a small mountain in the suburbs where he built a training ground. Seowoon is blown away when he hears this, forcing him to ask Ren just how rich he is. Ren casually asks Seowoon if he thinks he is rich, and everything just pisses Seowoon off subtly. He promises himself that on his next run, he is going to bring back a lot of valuables because he can't believe how pathetic he looks as he holds onto a high schooler's waist while riding. An hour later, they arrive at the mountain, but there is a fence around it, and Ren tells Seowoon that they have to move on foot from that point. Seowoon is blown away at the fact that Ren could buy a mountain and even fence it, and he talks about how convenient it is for Ren to have money. Ren tells Seowoon that he has the wrong idea about him because he is a profit-focused player. All his assets came from the loot he brought back from the game, and as they dash to where the training center is, Seo-woon asks him if he didn't do all of these with his parents' money. Ren reveals that it is a long story, but he tells Seo-woon that he already knew about Cloyd's survival before he was invited, thanks to his deep web activities. In fact, he only brings back items that have value in the real world. Since he has been in the game 13 times, Seo-woon asks Ren how much he's made in this time. Ren mentions that he has 2 houses, the mountain, some other land, and a bit of stock too. In addition, he has about 80 million yen in cash that he saved. Seo-woon cannot believe his ears when he hears just how much Ren has made, and he ends up losing his balance, causing him to fall face first into the ground. Upon arriving at the training center, Seo-woon finds a crystal standing in the middle of the gym, and he asks Ren if he brought it back from the game too. Ren reveals that it is a barrier stone that, once it is activated, everything within its range becomes completely invisible from the outside. Seo-woon then asks him why he didn't use it inside the game, and Ren mentions that it was made by an alchemist in real life, using materials from the game, so it basically can't be taken into the game. Seo-woon is surprised when he learns that there is no way to bring real-life items into the game. Ren tells him that an advanced subspace ring can drop them in fixed-player games, which is the only way it can be possible. Seo-woon figures out that this can only be obtained once one becomes a fixed player. Seo-woon then suggests that they eat because he is hungry, but Ren asks to have a match first. Ren whips out his staff, telling Seo-woon that after he lost to him in the game, he's been training hard. Ren then suggests that they confirm each other's strength before training, and Seo-woon is surprised that Ren really wants to fight him. Ren lets him know that it would hurt him if he holds back too. Hamit asks if he should transform into a weapon, but Seo-woon tells him to watch in the meantime. Ren makes the first move by unleashing a lightning strike, but Seo-woon leaps into the air to dodge this. He leaps toward Ren, aiming to finish the fight with one strike, but Ren puts up a barrier to block his attack. Seo-woon's attack is blocked halfway, and he admits that this is the toughest barrier he's faced. Ren smiles, revealing that barrier strength scales with magic power, so there is no way it is going to break easily. Seo-woon leaps backward, admitting that Ren has gotten a lot stronger in a short time. He says he believed that mages who just spam spells were trash, but with the way things are, it appears that he is going to take things seriously. Seo-woon then activates the shadow clones and they dash toward Ren, but Ren fries them all with lightning magic. Seo-woon uses the opportunity to leap toward Ren, telling him that he is not the only one who can use magic. Seo-woon unleashes Ice Lance magic at Ren's location, forcing him to put up a flame wall while boasting that he is never going to die to such trash magic. Seo-woon appears out of nowhere, swinging punches at him, but Ren dodges them elegantly. Seo-woon admits that Ren is pretty good for a mage, and suddenly, Seo-woon's legs get caught in an ice trap. Ren assures him that he is not escaping this easily because it is an Earthbinder restraint spell. Ren boasts that he is not like the usual mages who know just a few spells. Ren then conjures a big lightning strike to roast Seo-woon, but while he is still celebrating that he's won, he feels a slight punch behind him. He turns around in shock to see Seo-woon smiling at him. He freaks out, asking Seo-woon when he got behind him, and Seo-woon tells him that what he took down was a clone. Ren is completely blown away because he didn't even feel anything, even at that distance. Seo-woon tells him that he has been practicing hiding his presence recently. He asks Ren how it is, and Ren admits that it is so good that he wouldn't even notice it if they were in combat. Seo-woon tells Ren that this only means he hasn't mastered his inner energy. Ren asks Seo-woon if he held back, and Seo-woon confirms this. Ren sighs in disappointment, realizing that there is no way he can go up against Seo-woon alone. Seo-woon then commends him, telling him that his magic has gotten a lot stronger. He asks him if he used a high circle stone, and Ren reveals that it is thanks to the staff he made using the materials from the last game. Apparently, it amplifies magic power by 90% and strengthens spells. In addition, it can store up to 5 spells. Seo-woon freaks out when he hears that one can create an item that is overpowered like that from items in the game. Ren says he can't bring it into the game just yet, but the moment he becomes a fixed player, he will be able to do that. Seo-woon is overwhelmed, admitting that he's never seen anything like that in-game. Seo-woon says this would be worth around 200 coins, but Ren lets him know that coin value doesn't always match item value. Ren mentions that in Cloyd, most items can be obtained ridiculously cheaply, except for specific ones, which is why someone like him can make money even with a few coins. Ren explains that people who drop out and can't go back to Cloyd survival often become alchemists to focus on crafting. Ren says they even find it more fun because they are making money, which is the best of both worlds. Seo-woon hears this, and just concludes that people have different tastes in things. Seo-woon then tells Ren that it is time to eat, since they have already fought. Ren asks Seo-woon how many coins he's earned so far, and Seo-woon replies that it is under 500 coins. Ren almost passes out in shock when he hears this, telling Seo-woon that he is actually the rich one between them. Seo-woon lets Ren know that he traded most of it for elixirs and items, so they are gone. Ren asks Seo-woon if he dumped all of his items into stat upgrade without thinking twice, telling him that it is a waste because with 500 coins, he could have made a fortune. Seo-woon dunks on him with this, telling him that he is still at his low level because he is always thinking about money. Ren admits that he has a point when it comes to this. Meanwhile, the private organization that went after Seo-woon has taken the reports back to their boss, a giant, scary dude named Tatsuya. After the reports given to him by his underlings, he concludes that Seo-woon is someone worth keeping an eye on, even though they don't know his identity and whereabouts just yet, only the fact that he sold Escrow's necklace at a pawn shop. Back on the mountain, Seo-woon is doing his best, training his skills, especially the shadow clones. He pushes himself to the extreme and soon finds out that the limit on the number of clones is 7, and trying to create more clones is asking for too much. While he is doing his own training, Ren is also engaging in his own training session, unleashing magic spells all over the place. Seo-woon is surprised to see Ren firing off high-level spells multiple times as if they were low-level spells. Even with this, Ren believes that he can still push himself more. Seo-woon tells the dude to stop training and let them eat first because he is already hungry. A few minutes later, Seo-woon had cooked up a pot of ramen for them. He can't believe that he has been stuck on kitchen duty since the first day. Seo-woon notices that Ren has been on call with someone for a while and he concludes that it is his girlfriend. Ren clears the air, revealing that the person he is calling is his little sister. Seo-woon still uses the opportunity to dunk on Ren, saying it must really be nice to be rich because his family will always be happy. Ren then replies saying he and his sister are pretty close because she is the only family. The moment Seo-woon hears this, he freezes up in shock. Ren explains that he and his sister are the only ones left because his parents passed away when he was in middle school. Seo-woon is overwhelmed with guilt and he asks Ren why he didn't say anything. Ren says it is not really a fun story and he didn't even mind the fact that Seo-woon was treating him like a spoiled rich kid. Apparently his parents died in a drunk driving accident and it was 4 years ago. When it happened, relatives who hadn't visited them in years suddenly showed up at the funeral, acting like they were the ones in charge. It was later that Ren found out that the condolence money was split among their relatives. One day, Ren's sister had asked him to help tell their uncle and aunt about their parents' day at school, but Ren screamed at her, telling her to tell them herself. Ren still hates the fact that he yelled at her back then, but he believes that it was because he was overwhelmed after losing his parents. To make it worse, he was getting bullied at school at the time. He got beaten almost every day, and when he returned home, he had to deal with the pressure of having to support the family. In the end, he shut himself in his room and just browsed the deep web all the time. It was during this time that he found out that he has a talent for hacking. This was the first time he learned about Cloyd survival. In the beginning, he couldn't believe that something like that existed, but as he continued researching, he got absorbed in it all. He started thinking this might change his life, hoping that he would get invited too. However, the invitation didn't come, and one day, the lease on the house where they were living with their parents ended, forcing them to move from the spacious 3-bedroom apartment in the city to a cramped semi-basement unit in the suburbs. His uncle had claimed that it was because of the rising cost, but he later found out that his uncle had embezzled their house deposit. It was at this point that Ren realized that it was he and his sister against the world. One day, Ren ran to the streets, screaming at the top of his voice, asking the divine beings why he and his sister kept suffering. Tears ran down Ren's face because he believed that the world had abandoned them. He is in the middle of his rant when he gets his first invitation to the game. This was 2 years ago, and Seo-woon asks him if he has settled things with the guys who bullied him. Ren replies that he didn't do anything because they ended up going to different high schools. In addition, he didn't even have an interest in causing trouble because if he got arrested, no one would take care of his sister. Ren admits that moving far away actually made things better. Deep down, Seo-woon knows that things didn't get better just because Ren moved away, but because he actually started taking care of himself. Seo-woon then asks Ren if it is okay to have left his sister at home alone for a month. Ren reveals that she is staying with their aunt, who is like their mother figure. Since she is on a long break at the moment, she is helping out at their orchard. After the whole story, Seo-woon suggests that they return to training. Some weeks later, at the National Security Department, the administrative department manager, Naruse, is seen yelling at her junior colleagues for going after ability users without proper authority, saying this will only give the ability users more reason to join the resistance. The field operative claims that they are only following orders from the top, but this pisses off Naruse, and she punches the table. She tells the dude that withholding reports is basically a way of undermining her authority. The operative still tries to play the card that the report got delayed, but this causes Naruse to angrily smash the table with one punch. Fear grips the dude and he crashes to the ground as Naruse walks toward him, asking him if he is trying to call her a fool. The other operatives figure out that the department head is bypassing Naruse to use the private organization to deal with the ability users, which is why Naruse is pissed. Apparently Naruse is supposed to be at the top at this point, but she was demoted because she became an ability user, forcing her to work alongside low-level operatives. Naruse angrily walks out of her office, telling the staff that a disciplinary hearing is going to be held. He also tells the lead operative, Yoshida, that he has been suspended from all duties until a decision is made. Naruse returns to her office to think about the whole situation, and she concludes that the upper management is planting spies to monitor her. She is left wondering how long they plan to keep up the ridiculous farce. Naruse is left isolated in the organization thanks to the fact that she is an ability user and her opinions don't even count to her boss. Meanwhile, it is now the 23rd day of training on the mountain, and the two have gotten accustomed to training together. Even Seo-woon commends Ren, telling him that he has gotten a lot better over the past couple of weeks. However, Ren still finds himself losing to Seo-woon no matter what he does. However, Seo-woon lets him know that he's grown well enough without having to rely on the staff. It turns out that Seo-woon has also gotten stronger, and he can now create up to 8 clones. Seo-woon suggests that they eat before they finally leave the mountain. Ren is forced to ask Seo-woon if what he eats every day is ramen, and Seo-woon mentions that he missed it when he was back in the game. Ren admits that it is better than jerky, and Seo-woon confirms this, saying that once eggs are added to it, it becomes a complete meal. Seo-woon then says it is pretty weird that he built muscle just from eating ramen, and Ren reveals that there is something he heard. Apparently, those who master inner energy gain muscle much more easily than normal people, and their physical abilities improve too. Seo-woon is shocked to learn that there is research on this. Seo-woon reminds Ren that by the time they return, it will be a new semester, and Ren replies that he has a pile of work waiting for him at his company. Basically, he left everything unattended before coming to the mountain. Even though it is a small operation, it won't run without him, since he is the president. Seo-woon freaks out in shock because he doesn't expect Ren to have a company, since he is just a high schooler. Ren realizes that he forgot to mention that he runs a small online shop. Ren says he can't just convert items from another world into cash directly, since the amounts are too big, which is why most players set up shell companies. They operate at a loss, but the reward from Cloyd more than makes up for the loss. Ren tells Seo-woon to think about it if he ever has trouble handling large amounts of money. Seo-woon is blown away, and he admits that the more he learns about Ren, the more he realizes just how sharp he is. Just then, Ren tells Seo-woon that he has already helped him to prepare a new place, and his stuff has been moved in. Seo-woon is blown away again, asking Ren why he did it without asking him because he is pretty sure that it must have cost a fortune. Ren reveals that the area might not be the safest, but it is a spacious 3-bedroom, and the deposit on the house was 20 million yen. Ren tells Seo-woon that he can't afford for Seo-woon's identity to be exposed, since they have a lot of people coming after them. Seo-woon asks Ren why he trusts him enough to spend 20 million on him. Seo-woon is blown away by it all, and he tells Ren that he didn't have to stress himself to that point, but Ren tells him that he can consider it a loan that he can pay back later. Seo-woon frantically replies that 20 million is not something one can casually pay back, and Ren says he is pretty sure that Seo-woon can earn that back in the next game. After they are done eating, the two then pack their stuff to leave. With this, their 3-week training camp came to an end, and Seo-woon realized that things had been good for him since he got invited into the game. From living in a trash 1-bedroom apartment to moving into a nice 3-bedroom apartment. Upon entering the apartment, Seo-woon admits that it is bigger than he expected, and Ren says it is only because there is no furniture inside yet. Ren asks him if he doesn't like this, but Seo-woon assures him that he does, but he is just blown away because it feels bigger than his old home. Ren then tells Seo-woon that, as a housewarming gift, he is going to get him 1 appliance. Seo-woon is blown away by this because Ren just dropped a 20 million debt on him, and he is still talking about buying him stuff. Nonetheless, he thanks him for everything so far, and he tells him to go meet his sister because he's helped him really well. After Ren's departure, Hamit finally surfaces, asking Seo-woon why he had to seal him away for a whole month. Seo-woon tells him that he had to train without him, and Hamit expresses his surprise that Seo-woon's living conditions have changed in a month. Seo-woon tells him that it is a long story, and he sits down to sort the items he can sell to get things in the house. Suddenly, he feels a strange presence in the distance. He looks out the window to see a burning apartment building, and he figures out that a player is behind it. Seo-woon figures out that there is a player who likes making a scene, and he can't believe that he just moved into the neighborhood for someone to cause chaos. Just then, he hears a knock on the door, and he panics because Ren should be the only one who knows where he lives. He cautiously walks to the door, and when he opens it, he is surprised to see that it is the police. The officer tells Seo-woon that they are evacuating residents because there is a large fire in the building across the street. Seo-woon has no choice but to follow instructions while wondering who the hell is causing all the trouble. Seo-woon joins the other residents outside the building, and before he knows it, the fire has gotten even bigger. Seo-woon immediately senses 8 presences, and it appears that they are all hunting something. Seo-woon then decides to go check out whoever their target is. Meanwhile, a lady is seen fighting off a bunch of guys. It appears that she is a mage who is an ability user. She tells the men to back off, saying they are the ones who picked to fight first because she was just living quietly. Watching from a distance with the cloak of hiding, Seo-woon can see that the lady is already exhausted. Just then, the men jump her at once, and even the lady knows that there is nothing she can do. Just as they are about to overwhelm her, they get caught by ice binds. It turns out that Seo-woon was the one who cast the spell, and he is surprised that the ice lance can be used as a restraining spell. They turn around to see Seo-woon behind them, and they ask him who he is, but he replies that they don't have to know this. The men immediately assume that Seo-woon is the lady's ally. Seo-woon condemns their way of doing things, saying it is pathetic that they are jumping a poor lady. The team freaks out, screaming that they are being ambushed. They try to put together a counterstrike, but before they know it, Seo-woon has started knocking them to the ground. After beating up a bunch, the lady asks Seo-woon which organization he belongs to, and Seo-woon also tells her that there is no need for her to know. Just then, the men whip out weapons, lunging towards Seo-woon and the lady, aiming to subdue them. Instead of running away, the lady decides to face them, and Seo-woon is surprised that after he went through the pain of creating an opening for her, she stood back to fight. Seo-woon tells the lady that her situational awareness is trash, even though he doesn't know how many runs she's had. The lady unleashes a powerful fire attack that forces the men to retreat. However, they regroup again, telling the lady not to underestimate Stockpile because they have handled players who are even more powerful than her. However, Seo-woon steps in again, appearing behind the dude with the sword, punching him so hard that his head almost caves in. This leaves the lady wondering just who Seo-woon is. Before she knows what is happening, Seo-woon grabs her, dragging her away from the scene before the men can regroup. Once he makes sure that they are not being followed, Seo-woon dumps the lady on a rooftop. She has been screaming to be dropped since, and Seo-woon berates her, telling her that she is a pretty noisy woman. The lady argues that carrying her along like a grocery bag is quite rude, and she almost threw up. She asks Seo-woon if he is from another resistance group because she hasn't seen him before in their organization. Seo-woon replies that he isn't, and she asks if he is part of a private organization or a government agency. Seo-woon simply says no, but the lady doesn't want to believe this because Seo-woon was basically fighting the guys who wanted to catch him. She asks Seo-woon if there is another organization or group that she doesn't know about. Seo-woon replies that he is just an ordinary passerby, and when the lady remains persistent, Seo-woon tells her to just consider herself lucky and lie low. Seo-woon lets her know that he is not going to save her next time, and after saying this, he dashes off. Basically, Seo-woon helped just because he didn't like how the government guys operate. However, he still doesn't understand why he had to stick his neck out in such a situation. He wonders if it is some sort of dumb sense of kinship as a player, or if he was just playing hero without realizing it. Moments later, Seo-woon returns to his house, and Hamet tells him that what he did was uncharacteristically merciful of him. Seo-woon replies that he just didn't like the dudes in suits. Just then, Ren calls him, telling him that he just saw an explosion near him, asking if he is fine. Seo-woon replies that he is good and reveals what he saw concerning the lady. Ren asks him if he got involved, and Seo-woon says yes. Ren freaks out, asking Seo-woon what he was thinking when he got himself involved. Since Seo-woon doesn't have a bed, he tears up tissue on the floor to lie on it, and he tells Ren that he initially had plans to just watch, but he decided to step in when he saw them ganging up on a single woman. Ren cannot believe that Seo-woon is the one saying this when he was the one who was shooting arrows through people's heads in the game without thinking twice. Seo-woon argues that reality and Cloyd survival are different. Ren asks Seo-woon if they saw his face, but he says no, revealing that he was wearing the cloak of hiding. Ren tells him that private organizations can be managed, but if government agents take notice of him, it is going to be a big problem, so he urges him to be careful. Seo-woon admits that he also doesn't want to lose the new house he just got. After the call, Seo-woon decides to go to sleep with plans to get himself an electric blanket the following day. The following day, Naruse heads to the military hospital where the people Seo-woon beat up are being hospitalized. The moment Naruse enters the room, the team freaks out, but she yells at them, asking them what happened. The team leader mentions that they were ambushed during an operation, and Naruse yells at the dude, asking him why she wasn't informed about the mission when she is the department manager. She yells at the dude, asking him who gave him permission, as she wants to know who is going to take responsibility for their failure. Naruse is about to lose it when the general manager enters the room, revealing that he is the one who gave the permission. Naruse asks him what authority he has to have approved a mission without her consent, and the man claims the intel came in late, so they had to act on it immediately. Naruse asks him if he is going to be the one to take responsibility for the failure, and the man assures her that this has already been decided. He tells Naruse that she has nothing to worry about because he has smoothed things over with the higher-ups. The man continues saying trash, saying failures are also a part of the job, so Naruse should adjust to how things are in the field. The man then turns to the operatives, telling them to all get better quickly so that they can all support Naruse. After his short and annoying explanation, the man tells Naruse that she is leaving. Naruse then tells the team leader to submit his report once he is discharged. Some days later, Seo-woon meets with Ren, and Ren asks him if anything has changed since the day he helped the lady. Seo-woon asks him if he is there to lecture him, but Ren tells him that he is just worried because he keeps doing reckless things. While Ren is busy yelling, Seo-woon is focused on his nice necklace, as he thinks of getting one too. Seo-woon then tells Ren that he later went to the convenience store and the government agents are all over the place. However, it appears that they have not figured out his identity yet. In addition, he is pretty sure that they are looking for the lady he saved, not him. Seo-woon believes that being in the area is actually safer, since hiding in plain sight is the best way to go about the whole situation. Seo-woon then asks Ren what stockpile means because the operatives called themselves stockpile. Ren replies that it is not really a big deal, but stockpile refers to ordinary people who gain abilities through items instead of being players. They basically do not level up through the system, so it is not that efficient, but they are still pretty strong for regular people. Seo-woon's phone then rings and Seo-woon picks it up without even knowing who it is. It is after the dude on the other end started screaming at him that he realizes that it is his friend, Junpei. Junpei tells Seo-woon that the next day is Naoki's birthday and he has rented a place, so he wants them to go there together. It is at this moment that it finally dawns on Seo-woon that he has gotten so absorbed in Cloyd that he has totally forgotten about his real life. Seo-woon admits that he totally forgot, and Junpei reveals that he wanted to wait till the next day, but knows it would be a disaster. Junpei then tells Seo-woon to send his address so he can pick him up the next day. Seo-woon asks if it is compulsory for him to go, and his friend admits that Naoki is annoying, but this doesn't mean they don't have to celebrate him. Seo-woon is still arguing when his friend reveals that Mina is also coming to the birthday event. Apparently, Seo-woon met Mina during his first year of high school, and they were part of the same social circle. Thanks to this, they gradually became friends, but Seo-woon had fallen in love with her at first sight. He even begged his friends to help him spend more time with Mina. Seo-woon held everything in for a year, but the moment he finally summoned the courage to confess his love, everything came crumbling down. After this, Seo-woon didn't see Mina again for the rest of their second year. After the call with his friend, Ren asks Seo-woon if Mina was his first love. Seo-woon disgustingly asks Ren if he was listening to his conversation with some kind of magic, but Ren lets him know that the phone was pretty loud. Seo-woon replies that Mina wasn't exactly his first love, but was a one-sided crush. Seo-woon reveals that he got rejected, and Ren tells Seo-woon that he can teach him a 100% success confession technique. Seo-woon decides to hear what he has to say, and Ren tells Seo-woon not to give girls a reason to think about the whole thing. He lets him know that he has to strike at an unexpected moment, which is the most important task. Seo-woon asks him what he is supposed to do after this, and Ren tells him that he just has to look his crush in the eye and tell them he likes them while asking that they go out with him. Seo-woon is surprised that Ren is giving him such a simple method, and Ren claims that it works really well. He lets Seo-woon know that this is how he has gotten all of his relationships. Seo-woon immediately trashes all of his advice because there is no way he and Ren have had the same experiences. Seo-woon ends up leaving, urging Ren to get home safely. Ren teases him, wishing Seo-woon luck on his confession. The next morning, Junpei shows up early at Seo-woon's apartment, and Junpei is surprised to see that Seo-woon has changed from the usual awkward dude he knows. Junpei is also blown away by how big his apartment is, and Seo-woon claims that he is renting a room from someone he knows from school. Seo-woon is surprised to see that his friend now has a car, which is why he offered to come and pick him up. The dude reveals that he saved up and took a small loan to buy the vehicle. Seo-woon lets him know that he is most likely the only guy in their age range who has bought a car with their own money. Apparently, Junpei got a job right after high school, and even though it was tough at first, he is now working at a stable, small to mid-sized company. As they enter the car, Seo-woon asks Junpei where Naoki made the reservation, and he replies that it is a high-end yakiniku place. He asks Seo-woon if he brought a gift, and Seo-woon tells him that he is just going to give the dude a gift card or something. Shortly afterward, they arrive at the birthday location, and Seo-woon is blown away by how expensive the place is. He asks if Naoki will be paying, and Junpei says Naoki just wants to show off his money. Upon entering, everyone immediately recognizes the two, and they call them the Shame Brothers. Apparently, the Shame Brothers is a name that was coined out of both their names. Seo-woon is asked if it is true that he went to the military, and he says yes, revealing that he is just planning to return to school. One of them taps him on the shoulder, asking Seo-woon where he got all of his muscle from, and Seo-woon replies that it is just light exercise. They are all having a good time when Naoki and Mina walk into the room. Naoki talks coldly to Seo-woon, but Seo-woon replies the best way he can. Seo-woon ignores the rest of his questions as he focuses on Mina.
Naoki is pissed that he is talking to him, but he is looking elsewhere, and Seo-woon tries to cover everything up by telling Naoki that he sent him a gift card as his birthday gift. However, Naoki taps Seo-woon on the shoulder, telling him that he doesn't need his gift card. Naoki tells Seo-woon to just sit and enjoy himself. Moments later, the party got more lively, and everyone started getting drunk. Seo-woon realizes that he has gotten so immersed in the game that he has totally forgotten about his real life. Seo-woon knows Naoki, who got rich through his parents, kept inviting him just to show off his superiority. In fact, the others at the party are the same because they look at someone like him and feel satisfied with their lives. Naoki soon steps out, saying he has to make a call. One of the dudes asks why Naoki and Mina entered together, and one of them replies that Naoki has been trying his best to win Mina over. Apparently, Mina even works at a company owned by Naoki's father. Some want to believe that Mina got close to Naoki because of this, but others doubt the possibility. Junpei then teases Seo-woon, asking him if he is there to see Mina, but Seo-woon lets him know that all he is talking about is in the past. Seo-woon admits that the meat that is served is pretty good, and this is when Naoki shows up, saying it is way too expensive for Seo-woon to afford. Naoki moves closer, asking Seo-woon if anything is bothering him, but he says it is nothing. In fact, he is glad that he got to see old faces. Naoki then tells him to look up, since he is ruining everyone's mood. Seo-woon cannot believe that the dude is still as annoying as ever. Naoki urges Seo-woon to tell him his problems, promising to solve them. Seo-woon admits that having a rich friend does help, and he tells Naoki that he is going to hit him up if he needs anything. Naoki continues by telling Seo-woon not to hold back because life is tough without status. Seo-woon even pours him a drink, but he uses this to talk down on Seo-woon, saying he pours it as the usual waiters do. He trash-talks Seo-woon, saying he likes how he knows his place and doesn't cross the line. Tired of hearing the dude spew trash, Seo-woon slams his cup on the table, telling Naoki that he must be drunk, so he should go easy on the alcohol. This pisses Naoki off, and the others in the room start urging Naoki to chill out, but Seo-woon asks him if he has a problem with him. Naoki boastfully claims he has nothing against someone like Seo-woon because he is living the life of a loser, so he should act like it. Even Hamid is pissed, and he is already asking Seo-woon for permission to shut Naoki up, but Seo-woon just keeps mute, staring the dude in the face. The others start blaming Seo-woon for all that has happened, while holding Naoki back, so he doesn't fight. In fact, Naoki wants Seo-woon to apologize, but Seo-woon just gets up to leave, blaming himself for coming. Seo-woon tells the group that they are free to do whatever they like because he is leaving. He lets Naoki know that he is pathetic, the way he is desperate to show off his money, and this only makes Naoki even more pissed. As he walks through the street, Seo-woon is not entirely bothered about what happened because he is pretty sure he might not see them again. However, he is eager for the next game to come up. Meanwhile, Tatsuya and his organization soon get a report that they have tracked down Seo-woon. The moment Tatsuya hears this, he gets up from his seat, telling his boys to get ready to go after Seo-woon, since he is their person of interest.